Good morning, everybody, or good evening if you guys are over in the United States, or if you're in Europe, it'll be like 3 a.m. or something, but I doubt anybody's watching from there. How are we all this evening over in the United States? Where are we all watching from? Who we got? We got Big John Dinan in the chat. Hopefully he's prolific today. I want to see him absolutely spurging out on the opponent's arguments. Me and Cooley are teaming up today, guys. We're going to be going against, I don't even know who. AK became a member. Jonathan Vian came a member. Great to see. I think we've got less than 30 memberships now until we can start putting new emojis in there. We're going to get the emu emoji. So, 2 a.m. in Ireland, somebody says. Canada, Montana, Cali, Texas, Indiana. Yes. Love to see it. Detroit in the building. Make sure you lock your doors over in Detroit. Hide your daughters, hide your wife. It's all happening over there. Yes, we have got another member. Curveball126. You'd just love to see it. Guys, with the membership tiers, you start off with your Cenk Uygur tier. Your Cenk Uygur for a month, okay? It only lasts a month. And then after that, you progress. And then you get, I think there's a Jordan Peterson tier. I think there's I think the fourth tier might be Donald Trump. We've got some people on Donald Trump tier right now, which is just, it warms the heart. But yes, guys, me and Cooley are teaming up today to take on, I don't even know who, and the topic of the debate is so ridiculous because it's, do we need gender roles in society? Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do, because obviously if we don't, then we die. So it's going to be an interesting one. I'm very curious to hear what the arguments from the other side are going to be, why we don't need gender roles. I think they might try and play around with semantics a little bit, but if they do, then that's fine with me because that's not what the debate's about, and we can swiftly move on. So it's going to be an interesting one. We've got some North Carolina in the house. Savannah. Where's Savannah? Northwest. Isaac Hayes for $8 says, "G'day, Lord Jake." G'day, Isaac. I'm going to try and bring up the chats on screen, guys, but if not, at the end, I'm going to go back and read all of the super chats after the debate is finished, and that should be good. So I met Cooley down in DebateCon in New York, which was fun. He's a great fella, and I've been meaning to team up with him and do a debate against some leftoids, but here we are, finally happening, which is good. He's a good fella, old Cooley. John Dinan for $5 says, "Jake, you don't understand. You can put leftoids into Sam Shamoon's orbs now. Orbs and crystals. We have options." Yeah, what the hell's been going on with Sam Shamoon? He's so good in the anti-Islam stuff, but I think the guy might have honestly, when I look at it, I think he might have some sort of mental health problems, I think he might be a little bit those people who just flip out and just are completely irrational. We all know those sorts of people, right? Those sorts of people that you think you're cool with, and then all of a sudden they just flip out and they're really temperamental, and you can't ever gauge what they're thinking and feeling. And yeah, if someone said women, yes, that is who I was talking about. Yes, you got me there. Yeah. So I don't know. Sam Shamoon was good with the anti-Islam stuff, but just don't freaking attack the ortho bros. Jedi is the coolest cucumber in the whole of the internet, so he's not going to attack you. So what? Don't do it to him. America's Almanac says, "Jake, I'm a trucker from Florida, but tonight I'm in a Mormon cult capital of Utah. Godspeed, brother, and good to see you doing well. You too, America's Almanac. I saw some Mormons down in America when I was there. I also saw some Amish. Probably the funniest thing my brother has ever said to me, because he didn't know what the Amish were, Vinny, and he was doing a road trip from Tennessee to Michigan, and he texted me. He goes, "Oi, bro, I just saw some Jews in a cart." Some Jews in a cart. And I was like, "What?" And I thought about it for a second. I'm like, "Oh, he must be speaking about the Amish." So that was hilarious. Some Jews in a cart. But That's the strange part about America, isn't it? You guys have all of these strange communities and sub-communities and subcultures, and these guys have just lasted the test of time. They send their daughters off to college to go and see if they like it out there in the big wide world, and then they see if they want to return back. Anyways, I should jump into this studio. Hey, Vinny, come here. Sorry, guys, we just need a... It's saying to enter with YouTube or whatever. But we don't want to enter the stream like that, do we? We just want to jump in as a guest. Isn't it normally we just jump in with a name? Because I think it's telling us to connect and join the stream, you know? Press it. Yeah, see, it's telling us to connect to our YouTube. Hold on, let me just message you. Sorry, guys, give me a second. Me and Vinny are just sorting out some tech stuff. Maybe she sent you the collaborators link. Yeah, I think she sent me the collaborators link. I've just texted her saying. She said, "Are you coming?" It's 9:13, Sarah. The debate starts at 9:15. So I'm not even late. There we go. All right, I'm going to send it to you. Vinny? Yeah, Vinny, you sort that out. Send it to yourself. I can never do these bloody links. So yeah, should be an interesting one today, guys. America's Almanac says, Jews in a Cart is a sick band name. It really is. John Diner says, Amish people are great. They helped Trump win. Do Amish people get involved in politics like that? I didn't even know. Apparently they do. Apparently they're good craftsmen, hey? They like building stuff, which is cool. Good for them, you know? What else do they do, the Amish? They just chill in their communities. They don't look at their phones. They've got literally zero screen time. Kind of jealous of that, if I'm honest. Got it? That's a tricky one. Here, I'll get it to send it on Instagram. You got it? Oh, cool. I'll do it. It's the same fucking thing. Yeah, she's asked me to... Hold on a second. Well, I'll just log in then, and maybe I should just log in as Vinny. All right, we'll see how this goes. Should I just get Vinny to do the debate? Just throw him in the deep end? Oh no, this is fine. Could it not use my fucking full name? There we go. We should go headline Lord Rattlesnake today, guys. Jake, headline Lord Rattlesnake. Enter. Hello, how are you? Let me just share this screen here, guys. Oh.
He has a tardiness issue.
We haven't heard from Cooley yet, have we?
No. I did message him. It's not the first time he's been late and not the first time he's backed out.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, Andrew is live
right now, by the way, Sarah. So if you're going to talk shit about Cooley.
Let's go, Cooley. No, he knows it. He knows it. See what I mean? They were just talking about, hey, I am live, but I've muted everything, yada, yada. I'm like, I'm used to it.
That's all right. I'm sure Cooley won't get offended. You know, the burden's on you if you're late.
No, I think he'll acknowledge it.
But if we can always, 2-on-1's fine as well.
Oh, is it now?
Yeah.
After I got denied such a privilege?
I have 2 hands, you know.
No, I can definitely find. I know Andrew's live right now. We could always tap into that. Oh wait, he just messaged me. He's coming now. Okay, we
Alright.
don't have to tap into that. Or if I mean, there's plenty of backups. So I always have a like backup mentally. All right. So yes, as I was saying, gentlemen, interruptions. I will mentally be docking you points the whole time. And if you appeal to the moderator after you've been non-compliant the entire evening, I'm not going to be nice. You will find out why they call me the Raging Tomato if you continue to interrupt. I will eventually go into full bitch mode. So enjoy. Overall,
Threaten
I
us
will
with a good time. That sounds fun.
as I put the stiletto on your neck. Overall, I will let this is your debate. I will completely keep myself out of it if you are civil and can get through the topic and can maneuver on your own in a good flow. Out if you can't, I will maybe try to bring you back on track or if there's a translation error, I'm happy to offer one of those if I see one kind of going a little cross talking to each other. But outside, I will happily sit here with my mouth shut the entire time. Happily. I challenge any of you to try to make that happen for the evening. By doing that, you don't interrupt, you stay on topic, and we keep the insults to a minimum. And now I'm going to repeat myself because here comes David. Let me change the timer. I hate when it's late.
Sorry, a little bit late there.
Unacceptable. I'm already docking you points, Cooley.
My bad.
I'm
life
just
be
glad you're
happening.
here.
I'm here.
Okay, so as I was telling the gentleman, we're going to go for about 2 hours. Since we've kind of pushed the time a little bit more, I might take that out of debate time just for everybody's time's sake. And so we start opening statements since, let's see, should traditional roles still have a place in modern society? Jake and Cooley, you are yeses. So I'm going to put you over on this side. And Soy and Wick, you are no's. So Jake and Cooley, you have the opening statement. Would either of you prefer to go first?
Yeah, I'm happy to
I'll
go
go first. That's cool. Since I
You go
came
for it.
in last, I
Go
guess
for
I'll
it,
go.
Cooley.
Okay, cool. I'll
Okay.
go for it, Jake.
All right. And then Soy and Wick, either of you prefer to do the opening statement? Or who would prefer to have the last word?
Doesn't matter to me. Whatever you want, Soy. I'll let you choose.
I'll go last, sure.
Okay.
All right. I like it. That means you are the first one on the way out to make the closing statement. Soy and Cooley, you will have the final word at the end of the night. And so I do ask we not interrupt during opening and closing statements. If you have a hard time keeping your mouth shut, please hit your mute button so you don't accidentally giggle, laugh, or projectile vomit words onto the screen. We'll do opening statements. Those are 4 minutes each. If you're welcome to use up all the time, or I prefer short and sweet, keeps the crowd happy. We'll get right into the debate, and then we'll go into closing statements. Then we'll read and respond to super chats that come in, and then we will go into open panel dumpster fire. As I said before, you are not obligated to stay once I open the panel. You are more than welcome to, and I highly recommend it. It gets really fun and crazy. And then once open panel starts, you can leave whenever you want. Doesn't matter. As I was telling them, Cooley, interruptions are a big no-no here. I absolutely despise them. Try to allow people to get their thought out before you want to respond back. Keep the insults to a minimum. I understand the entertainment factor. It's very fun, but let's not make a whole show out of it. And I think any questions to you, gentlemen?
Nope.
How's my
I'm good.
mic? Is it loud enough?
Yeah, actually, let's go down the board. Cooley, if you could just say hello, hi, whatever.
Yep, my name is Cooley.
Okay, Jake, can you do the same?
Hello, hello, hi, hello.
All right, and
He's a
then
little quieter for me. I don't know if you can turn yourself up.
yeah, I'm gonna if you have an adjustment on your end, you want to do it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't think I can individually adjust people. Or
I
talking
know-
to him. Sorry.
I'll normally speak a lot about this level. So if that's too quiet, maybe we should turn me up a bit. Or
Yeah, I'll give you a little nudge on my end. You are pretty softer spoken on that thing. Okay, Wick, go for you.
Okay. Wick. That's my name. Here I am. Sound check.
You're definitely the louder of the three. Soy.
Wick. That's my name. Sound check.
All right, Wick. I don't know if you can turn down a nudge on your end, or if I can do it on my.
Let me see what I can do.
Just a nudge. It's not a lot. You have a very clear mic. And it's
Is
very
this better or
beautiful.
worse?
I think that's fine.
We
that's
going
fine.
okay?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen, any final questions, thoughts? Oh my God, we're all going to die. Anything?
One day we will, but not today. Not today.
All right. Well, I will put you backstage. We've got about a 2.5-minute intro. I will put you back on stage when you have about 30 seconds left, so you're not caught picking your nose or anything crazy. Okay. All
Okay.
right.
All right, boys. We are on here. What in the world did I just witness? One of them is called Soy. I think he's doing the whole hold on. How do I mute this shit? I want to hear this. How do I mute this? Hold on. Mute. There we go. Holy moly, ladies and gentlemen. The Singlet guy is
Captain's log, June 2nd, 2836. After 27 years of war between the Degen Coomers and the Sainthood Slayers, a new
panic. Yeah. Yeah, guys, I'm just beside myself.
negotiations for a peace treaty are in transition.
About this Singlet man.
The moderator has arrived at Station 42. Can this war be ended? Will the Coomers and Slayers find a middle ground?
Abort mission. I repeat, abort mission. Negotiation failure. Abort mission.
So you guys can hear? That's weird. I just muted the site. Yeah. Anyways, I'll bring that back up later. Yeah, the mute's not working. That sucks. Anyways, only works on my end, maybe. Yeah. And the other one just looks like one of them looks like a one of those libs who tries to act like they go to the gym and they're actually like a trad alpha male. And then the other one looks like someone who would be caught on To Catch a Predator. Am I right? You guys ever watch that show, To Catch a Predator, with Chris Hansen? What you guys are not going to be able to unsee this now. One of them looks like he's straight off To Catch a Predator. Yep. Anyways, this should be interesting. Should be an interesting one, guys. There's actually a specific episode that I'm thinking. He looks exactly like a specific episode of To Catch a Predator that I'm thinking. He brings a pizza. And he sits there and just eats it. Chris Hansen, have a seat right there. Have a seat. Just right there. Have a seat. Isn't it crazy how they do that? Whenever Chris Hansen comes in, he goes, why don't you just have a seat right there? And they're just like, oh, okay. There's a specific episode that I'm thinking about, though. It's the one where that guy comes on and then he actually has like handcuffs and shit. Oh, gosh, they're back. All right.
Moderator Monday. This evening, I have David Cooley from No Fugazi podcast, Jake from Rattlesnake TV, The Soy Pill, and Wick TV here to bring us a debate on should traditional roles still have a place in modern society. Opening up this evening, David, would you like to give your opening statement?
Sure. So should traditional roles have a place in modern society? It's crazy that we even have to have this debate about something that's rooted in our biology and our reality. It's only in modernity with all of these modern conveniences like technology that men created and rights that men grant where someone can feel so comfortable and privileged to even question something that's common sense. Imagine the olden days if you're with your wife and you play rock, paper, scissors, shoot on who has to go out, walk 50 miles, get some water, and fight the bear. She will be pissed, lose attraction for you, and break up with you immediately. Guess what? Nothing has changed today. Imagine you're at home with your wife and an intruder breaks through the door and you say, hey, honey, rock, paper, scissors, who's going to handle the bad guy? she'll break up with you instantly and cheat on you with your best friend. Men and women have a natural propensity that's rooted in their biology to be attracted and repulsed by things in the opposite sex. Generally, men are attracted to feminine women, that's submissive and nurturing, and women are attracted to masculine men who can protect and provide. This is how society flourished since the beginning of time. In today's time, we see the negative results what happened in society when you move away from gender roles. Feminism plus media pushing propaganda, telling women they don't need a man, they're independent, and to prioritize their career over a family and children, which led to a major birth rate decrease, along with 1 million abortions per year, and women initiating 70 to 80% of the divorces. Men are weak and docile and don't have any emotional control because many of them don't have a masculine father in the household to block out the negative propaganda and instill and guide them in their natural masculine role. So I say this to say that gender roles is part of the human existence. There's no getting rid of it, and anyone that thinks and tries that they can get rid of it, they're an idiot. That's my
Fair enough. Thank you, David. Jake, to you.
Yes, good to see you all today. Happy to be here. I also am in a similar boat to Cooley, that when I saw the topic of the debate, I thought to myself, this is just a complete common sense no-brainer. Do we need traditional gender roles in society? Yes, we clearly do, because if women don't have children, and if men don't procure and refine resources, and if men don't build things, then our civilization will likely go extinct. So on that level, on the societal level, it's very obvious. But then you look at that as a microcosm of even relationships. We can get into that obviously during the course of the debate if you want. I think that you'd have to seriously touch some grass if you were to take the opposite approach here and say that there isn't room for traditional gender roles. I can't imagine how deep into a Reddit rabbit hole, or how terminally online you'd have to be to think that that women would be happy to do away with masculine men, because women are clearly repulsed in the most part by very feminine men, and men tend to love and appreciate feminine women. So gender roles are not only necessary for the survival of our civilization, but even on the relationship level, on the micro level, they're completely necessary. And with that, I think I'm very excited to hear what our opponents' arguments are.
Thank you. Soy pill to you.
Yeah, I believe that gender roles, insofar as they're defined by what is socially expected of men and women, should be done away with. But that's not to say that women shouldn't give birth or that men shouldn't utilize their natural strength. And to be clear, I don't think that gender roles are exclusively harmful, and I don't think they should disappear tomorrow. I think there's plenty of positives that come from the expectation that men should be hardworking and protective, or that women should care for others and nurture our youth. But what I think is the societal expectations, which we use to encourage good behavior, don't really need to be gendered, and that aspects of gendering them are harmful. For example, toxic masculinity gets a lot of pushback because people think it demonizes all of masculinity, when really it's pointing to the failures of gender roles, telling men that they need to be stoic and strong, but not allowing them to be emotional and deal with stress or failure in a healthy manner. On the flip side, women might downplay or discourage their own intelligence and ambition to fit into this role of a subservient homemaker. So I think we can learn from the good that gender roles encourage and really apply these as virtuous behaviors to all people, and that any biological dichotomies, which won't go away, don't need to prescribe behaviors. Ultimately, I believe that people should have the freedom to choose outside of some gendered expectation.
Thank you, Soy
So
pill.
you lose the
Will
debate.
Wick
So it is
to
still
you.
necessary.
Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about gender roles, traditional gender roles specifically, and if they have
Just
a
sit
place
right
in
over
modern
here,
society.
Wick TV.
I
Right on
think
this
to
chair.
answer this question, we gotta inquire
No, I
a
don't
little
want a slice
further.
of pizza.
What place in modern society should gender roles have? Neither me nor Soy Pill here are going to be arguing that we should abolish stay-at-home moms or prevent men from working or anything like that. The core question, I think,
Guys,
in
I'm going to
tonight's
slip
debate
in a
is this:
Christopher Hansen
who should be allowed to decide
reference
what role
at some point.
a person
Watch out for it.
performs in their life? The
To catch
government,
a predator, I'm going to slip it
one's
in there.
community, one's neighbors, or, as I would argue, should the individual be able to make the choice for themselves on who they want to be of what they want to do. Should society or the government restrict access to a woman who wants to enter the workforce, who wants to start a business or run a company? No. Should society or the government restrict access to a man who wants to stay at home to raise his sons and daughters while his wife goes out and earns money for their household? I don't think so. The question is, who gets to decide? The argument of men should fulfill this position in the family or this position in the workforce, while women should fulfill this other role in the family and this other
This is such a shameful
role in the
approach for a
workforce
man
is
to
a very
take.
anti-merit based argument. Me, I'm a merit guy. I believe that the best person for the job should do the job. If it happens to be a man,
that's not a good argument.
great. Happens to be a man. Happens to be a woman, then it is a woman.
I'm going to
When we
use
try
that.
and shoehorn individuals into these pre-programmed slots, we stymie innovation, creativity, and productivity. Let us cast off these chains of these DEI gender roles that my opponents here want to push and really stick to what matters in the long run, which is merit. And that's my argument today. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. As a kind reminder to everyone, we will go through the debate, do closing statements, read and respond to your super chats, and then, of course, your most favorite, we will open up for open panel dumpster fire. Gentlemen, the floor is open.
Yes, fellas, good to meet you both today. I'm interested to know about the perspective in regards to how we are meant to procure and refine resources and actually build things if we don't have traditional gender roles. And by traditional gender roles, I mean that men have their masculine duty, which is to build the infrastructure of society. If we don't actually have that, and if that's completely obfuscated, and if men don't fulfill that duty, then how do we actually build things in society, and how do we procure and refine resources?
Yeah, I can address this. So I think the mistaken statement here is that by saying we don't have gender roles, that somehow that means we'll do away with the concept of men being this predominantly military force, or men being predominantly this force of strength and building or doing all these things that women can't embody based on merit, like Wick said, right? Like if there is some specific strength role that they can't fill because they're naturally not as strong as a man, somehow that means that it's a gender role for the man to do that. When really all we're saying is, yeah, of course, we need people to build society. We need people to give birth. We need people to defend our country. But these aren't things that should be for all men to do. These are things that some are exclusive to men because of what needs to be done there. But that doesn't mean that we're saying, hey, you're a man, you have to do this. And that's just kind of exemplified by the fact that most men don't do these things.
But the
most
thing
men
is,
don't have manual labor jobs.
Yeah.
Most men don't serve in the military.
I get that, but in like, if you look at it in this societal context, if men were to stop doing that tomorrow, if men were to stop performing that role, because it is a role, and we do have guys who get up and work with electrical lines every day, and guys who do roof tiling, and guys who do concreting and ice road trucking, that is a masculine role because women aren't actually physically capable of doing those jobs for the most part. There might be some Game of Thrones ladies out there that can do the job, but for the most part, they can't do that job. And what we see in society is that those duties do get fulfilled, and it's because it is a masculine imperative. And when I look at those duties being fulfilled, I think that men have to have an incentive to actually fulfill those duties. And the incentive, generally speaking, is that they can have a wife and they can have a family and they can provide for their family and they can live a life that's not lonely and that's healthy and that has relationships and kids and all these sorts of things. And if you actually deprive them of that opportunity, and if they can't have a wife, and if women aren't fulfilling their feminine roles, which is to have children and be wives and mothers, etc., then there is no incentive for men to keep on doing that. So we're at a stage now in society where we have a much lower birth rate, where people aren't pair bonding as much when they're younger. And then men, I think, have less and less incentive to actually fulfill those masculine roles. And they're wanting to become TikTokers and YouTubers now instead of becoming plumbers and carpenters, etc. So there is a bit of an issue actually playing out before our eyes with this.
Go ahead, Luke.
Sure. Well, when you say incentive to perform these roles, I mean, they do get paid a salary. The money is exchanged. You're offered a contract. Say, hey, if you do this job, we will give you X, Y, and Z. Here's the money you'll get per year. Here's the benefits you'll get per year. So when you say incentives, I think you, and correct me if I'm wrong, you seem to be implying that there's a lack of incentive for.
Well, do you think that incentive is purely materialistic?
If I may finish my question, right?
You're rambling. I understand what the
question is. Let him finish the thought, please, and then you can respond.
It's a simple question. I get it. Yeah.
I mean, you don't even know my question. You haven't even heard me answer.
You're saying that is the incentive purely materialistic? You're saying they have a materialistic incentive.
That's not what I'm asking you.
Okay, go for it.
Go ahead and finish the question, Wick.
Right? My question is, my statement here is that you seem to be implying that this materialistic incentive is not enough. So I'm going to ask you directly, what incentives do you think that are lacking for men today that you think men should have access to? Should a company provide them a wife or something? Is that what you're trying to imply?
Should a company provide them a wife? No,
Yes,
that's not what I'm
if
saying.
not material, if the material incentives that they are offered are not enough, which you seem to be implying, is that not correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if that's the case, what extra incentives that they do not yet get are you wanting the company to offer, or the
I never said
society
that
to
it
offer,
was
or
it was
you need to
incumbent upon
offer?
the company to offer that. I said that men are incentivized by the idea that they can have a wife and that they can actually pair bond and they can mate with the opposite sex. This is what incentivizes men to build things. This is what incentivizes men to go out and create things. And also, men are very incentivized by the idea of legacy. Men want to pass on their genetics and they want to have a legacy over multiple generations. And if you don't think that men are incentivized by legacy and by the opposite sex, then that is just a completely delusional take. It's not incumbent upon the company to provide them with a wife, but societally, we should be in a stable society. A man can go out and work hard and make something of himself, and then he can have access to a wife and have access to being able to carry on his lineage, because that incentivizes men to go out and build things.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with any of your descriptions of that some people are absolutely incentivized this way. I'm curious what you're prescriptively suggesting, because I mean, if you look at any of the countries that are fighting, and this is happening all over the world, by the way, this kind of lack of replacement birth rate, whether it be in a more progressive place where you would say, oh, this is because of a lack of gender roles, or because it's in Hungary or Georgia where they're doing incredibly like pro-natalist policies that just aren't working. I'm curious as to why you would think that somehow returning to these gender roles would necessarily be the solution to what you deem as the collapse of society, especially when someone like South Korea is facing like the worst of this replacement rate, and they are one of the most traditionally conservative places in the world. It doesn't seem like it's a proper solution. And we could address, I guess, all the arguments about whether or not this has anything to do with whether or not we should prescribe these pro-family values in everyone, regardless of their gender. I don't think this is exclusive to men or women. And I don't think you can point to a country that is embodying this and somehow doing it because of the gender roles is succeeding.
So you said you can't point to a country that's succeeding in what, sorry?
You can't point to a country that's succeeding because of like they're strictly adhering to like all men need to do this, all women need to do this, and therefore now we have prosperous high birth rates and our economy.
Yeah,
is
we
flourishing.
can.
Like,
We can
I just don't
point
see
to a
that
country.
happening.
We can point to a country, Israel. You look at Israel and they've got a birth rate above 3. And one of the reasons why is because they have an Orthodox Jewish community that has a massive birth rate. They have a big IVF program, which is a bit, that's a different conversation. But they've also got the sort of family structures where the grandparents will come in and look after the children, etc. And they also have a lot of shame around having children outside of wedlock. So there's a lower rate of single motherhood, etc. But also they've got another thing, which is nationalism. They've got a lot of countries around them that want to take them out. So obviously they need to reproduce. And one of the Palestinian leaders, Yasser Arafat, is on record saying that his greatest weapon is the woman's womb. So that's how the Arabic countries around them think, that they want to outbreed them and, eventually whatever. So Israel is a really good example of that.
Can I ask a question, though? Because that is a good example. I'm happy you brought that up because that wouldn't be one that I would think of. But then I guess that would kind of contradict the whole idea of gender roles when I think of the fact that we put, I'm paid by them, by the way, they put women and men into the, IDF to serve in the military. And like, it seems like they're, if anything, kind of moving away from traditionally masculine, traditionally feminine things. Now, if you want to argue, yeah, we need to encourage some degree of like, birth pro-natalism to make a country survive, especially when it gets this dire, I wouldn't even argue with that necessarily. I just don't think that's the same thing as what society expects from people and saying that you need to do this or you're not a real woman and you need to do this and you're not a real man.
I've got a few points to touch here. So first of all, in terms of the Israelis and their the IDF, the women are all in support roles. The women are not out there on the front lines. If you look at the death toll of the IDF men to women, it's substantially more men. The women aren't going and fighting. The women are making TikToks and they're probably making the sandwiches for the guys and stuff. They're maybe standing at the traffic stops and pretending to do something. It's a little bit for show, but it is a part of this sort of nationalistic push that they have where they're like, everybody has the duty to serve the country, etc. You also brought up Japan and South Korea. These are really good examples. Now, what this actually does play slightly into the favor of what you guys are saying in the fact that there are other explanations for collapsing birth rates. One of them is urbanization. One of them is as a country becomes more wealthy and people live in smaller places and the population grows and people get more urbanized, they want to have less kids because, it becomes less affordable. But also these countries are atheist countries. They're not religious countries. They have some sort of cultural traditions, etc. But I think that the birth rate problem is a deeply religious problem. And it's a similar problem that we're having in the West at the moment, that as we go away from religion and as we go away from God, people have much less incentive to actually procreate.
But why would you say then it's happening in Georgia, which is like a kind of Orthodox country, or why would it be happening in these like sub-Saharan communities, which have religious ties, and people like to fearmonger about how they're going to birth all these crazy migrants with these high rates, and yet they are also seeing the same decline. I think if you look into this at all, you'll see that there's actually no consensus as to why the birth rates are falling in all of these countries with completely different environments. It seems to be, I mean, I think there's a quote from someone that said, hey, if you could solve and show why this is happening, you'd win a Nobel Prize, because it's kind of baffling people as to why it's literally happening across the board, across all of these countries. Like, how can that all be from religious or lack of religion?
Well, here,
if I may,
the thing is,
that, just
go
real
ahead,
quick,
Wick.
just
Yeah,
real
you could
quick,
piggyback off.
This idea
I'll go next.
that the women who serve in the IDF are just kind of standing around pretending to do things is just not borne out by the facts. A lot of them do serve in security roles and other types of places. While yes, they're not all on the front lines fighting, I think logistics serves a valuable, and logistics wins wars, frankly. And those are the people who are putting their lives on the line. And I just think that, like, to point out Israel as a place that has moved away from gender, that has moved away from gender roles in a large society, and using that to kind of promote your point that we need to stick with gender roles just doesn't connect.
The Orthodox
There's-
Jews have a
I've
birth rate
heard
of
that
like
Ethan
8.
Klein's wife is a
Um,
terrorist, and I don't think
I-
that could happen if she just was making sandwiches, but I'm not sure.
I wanted to give Cooley the opportunity to jump
for
back
Cooley.
in.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
I see where you guys are going with this. So the big thing, it's influence. Influence is the big thing. Like Jake is saying, he's saying, like, religious is an influence, and then traditions is an influence as well. So question to you, Soy. You said that in your opening, you said that you believe that people should have freedom to choose. So
Yes.
let me just ask you a question. My question is, should people should we promote and push gender roles to like move society that way? Should we influence people to adhere to gender roles, or should we not?
Right. So I think what's kind of been happening up until now, and we've kind of deviated this in the recent years, is that we have been pushing gender roles. We say, hey, men, you go work, provide for your family, you'll be happy. Hey, woman, stay at home, like make the home, raise the children, you'll be happy. And as we've kind of moved away from this, you see that like the stickiness of kind of pushing these roles is, I think, causing more harm than good in certain places. I don't think these are completely useless, by the way. Like, I agree, we should be promoting men to be hard workers. I just don't think we shouldn't be promoting women to also be hard workers. I think any of the good things you can take from these roles could be applied across the board. And unfortunately, what's happened now is because we've told men for so long, hey, if you're a hardworking go-getter guy and you go get a job, that's all you need to do. What that has done is created this kind of male loneliness epidemic where they realize, hey, I've done everything the gender role told me to do. I'm stoic, I'm progressive, I'm strong, I'm going out and I'm working, and it's just not enough anymore. And it's because we've limited what a man should be to this very narrow pigeonholed sort of definition. And I think that it is just more harmful to society than just saying, hey, like everyone needs to go out and do all of these virtuous things that we've been promoting with gender roles, just not exclusively to gender.
Yeah, got you. So you really haven't answered my question. So remember, in your opening, you said that people should have their freedom to choose, freedom of choice.
Yes.
Right. So my question to you is, if people have the freedom of choice, right?
Mhm.
Choice, what should we influence them? Like, if you influence
Yeah, so
someone,
I know it's vague when I say
virtuous.
virtuous.
Let me finish it up.
Let him finish it, and then
If you influence someone, they still have the ability to adhere to whatever you're influencing them on, or to neglect it. It's still choice. So my question is, should we influence society about feminism? Be an independent woman, I don't need a man? Or should we influence people to say, hey, you know what? These gender roles, these traditional roles, these are things that's good, even though they can still choose something else. We do see today with the influence of feminism, it actually led people to make a choice to not prioritize family and children and stuff like that. So my question to you again, should we influence people to adhere to gender roles? Yes or no?
Right. So sorry if this is vague. I promise I did answer your question, but I'll try to elaborate a different way. So when I say,
It's just
hey, we should
yes or
promote
no.
virtuous, well, okay, no is my answer, and I'll explain why.
Okay,
So I
got you.
do
So
think
you
we
want
should be
boys
promoting
to be
virtuous
girls
behaviors.
Hold
and
on,
girls
Cooley.
to be boys.
Let
Great.
him
Yeah,
elaborate,
that's not what I
please.
said. So I think we should be promoting good behaviors that make society better. I think that gender roles as those behaviors are limited in the fact that if we tell everyone, hey, men can only do this and women can only do that, and if you're out of this spectrum of what I've defined a man and a woman should be, you're doing something wrong. I think that limits more than it helps at this point. And I think that all of the good things that do come from that, we can do agendered. That's what I'm saying. So no, I don't think gender roles should be promoted because I think the good behaviors are independent of those and can be influenced independent of those.
Can I ask you a question, Cooley, if I may?
Sure. I was gonna reply back to. I'll just go
Go
ahead,
reply.
Wick.
I
No,
can wait
Wick.
till you reply.
Wick.
It's
No,
fine.
Wick. You're fine. Ladies
Okay.
first.
Ladies first. Well, as I said, you
Got
can
'em.
go to Soy. Go ahead.
No, I'm really, Wick. You can go ahead. Go ahead.
That was very
Sure,
cucked of you.
Fair enough. I try to be kind, and thank you for allowing me to go.
Yeah.
If a man wants to stay at home and raise his children, which is not a traditional role that a man has, and his wife wants to go out and work and earn a living, etc., do you think that society should look down on that man for doing that?
Do I think society should look down on that man
Yes,
for doing
that
it?
society,
Okay.
his community,
give
his
you-
neighbors, etc., should disincentivize that man from doing that. Should
I'll
look
give you
down on
two
him,
answers.
etc.
Two answers.
ahead.
One, generally speaking, his wife will look down on him. So that will be the first thing. The wife will look down on him, even though the woman was influenced to prioritize a career. Like you said, hey, yeah, I want to go out there and get my bag. And he's in the home taking care of the kids. There's a very high probability. Women have a natural propensity to be repulsed by a man that's not operating in masculinity. You get what I'm saying? So yeah,
I
in
don't
some
actually, but
situations,
go ahead.
that's fine. And there's exceptions to every rule. In some situations, yeah, I'm sure it maybe works. You know, you get some masculine chick that she wants to be out there working, and you get some feminine male and he wants to be in a home with the children and he has low T. Yeah, I'm sure that relationship dynamic works. Kudos to them. Guess what? Exceptions don't make the rule. Right. So generally speaking, that wouldn't work. So what would be my general answer to your question? Yeah, I would. If I see that, I'll be like, you're a cuck. What are you doing in the house? You're a loser. You're a dork.
I don't think.
would
I
make
think the
fun of
issue
them.
here is you're prescribing that this is the majority of things, and therefore we should encourage it. And all we're saying is we shouldn't necessarily adhere and say this is the only thing you can do. And you kind of gave that away in saying, yeah, there are exceptions, and that's kind of our point: is that there are exceptions to this. I don't think that makes them less of a man, and I don't think we should be shaming people for making a choice which you yourself agreed can work in certain
Generally,
places.
the wife would think that he's less of a man.
And if she does, then he's got a problem. But that doesn't
And
mean
men
we should
in the locker
discourage them
room-
from
Unless you
trying
are
to do
his
things
wife.
right.
Ladies in the
on.
locker
All
room would
right,
think that
gentlemen,
he's less of a
gentlemen.
man. Oh, wait, you're at home cooking? I go home, food is already cooked for me, you dork. So generally, guess what? What's naturally going to happen is he's going to be made fun of. That's what's naturally going to happen, right? So
Okay,
if you promote this.
should or
No, it will happen.
okay.
It will happen. And
Yeah,
guess
well, so
and
we're
I-
not arguing. Just to be clear, we're not arguing that there's not good. Look, women give birth, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, some men do now too, right? But that doesn't
No,
mean that a huge
that is-
vast
that
majority of
never
women are the
happened.
ones giving birth, right? So we're not saying, well, we need to even this out. Men need to give more birth. We're saying that just because a vast majority of women are going to be giving birth to the next generation of people doesn't mean that prescriptively we should be telling them, hey, this means you have to be a homemaker. Hey, this means you have to do XYZ as a woman, right? We're not saying.
I get what
Hold
you're
on, let him
Okay, I'm
finish.
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think you
Sorry,
guys-
we're
let him
done.
respond, it's
Okay, go ahead.
No, I get what you're saying. And the point that I'm making is that people, like you said, in your opening, I want you to think a little bit, right? And I'm not saying this to like saying that you're not thinking, but like think on a question that I'm asking. Like I was active listening to you. So in your opening, you said that you want people to have freedom of choice,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
I believe that too. Have freedom of choice. Choose what you want. But guess what? We know that influence is a very powerful force, right? So since influence is a very powerful source, then I think that we should influence people to adhere to gender roles because we know that leads to higher birth rates. We know that leads to a lot of good things in society. But even though there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, there's always going to be people that don't choose to adhere to gender roles. But guess what? Let's say if we promote some propaganda to not adhere to gender roles, then it's just going to increase the birth rates. It's going to increase the women not having children. It's going to increase women in the workforce and men being docile, like Wick's example of men being in the home, working and taking care of the children, and women out there working. It's just going to increase that. That's what I'm saying. The possibility will definitely increase if we push the opposite of gender roles.
We're not saying that we need to push the opposite of gender roles. We're saying we don't need to push gender roles.
The
things that you're, by the way, the things that you're prescribing that are like
feminism is
woman,
the opposite of gender roles.
Debate, right? We're talking about, hey, we want more women to have give birth, right? Like you can do that exclusively of saying, hey, woman, you need to do this or you're a bad person. It's just saying, hey, like we're going to incentivize this because we need replacement rates, and so if you want to do this, you can. This is about the choice. It's not saying, hey, the opposite of gender roles is better. It's saying, hey, there's good things from gender roles, but I think that the negatives that come from that don't need to happen, and we can promote good behaviors exclusive of gender roles. This doesn't mean we have to do the opposite.
One quick question.
Hold on, I wanted to give Cooley the opportunity to respond because he was.
One quick question for you then, Soy Pill. Then do you want?
No. You could. That's the point. That's the whole. Yeah.
No, I mean, I kind of misspoke, but all right. So, do you think that we should stop the propaganda and the push towards feminism, or should we? Because, like, you want to stop this gender role and this masculinity and femininity dynamic, right? That's what you want to stop. You said that we don't need to influence the masses towards that. So my question for you is, then should we influence? Yeah, should we stop feminism then?
It depends on what aspect you mean. It's a really wide topic, and there's probably a lot of stuff that you and I would agree is like not helpful to society. But ultimately, I think the point of feminism, in its very most generic gray blobby form, is to give women that choice. And I think that's a good thing, that people should be allowed to choose what they want to do. Now, if you're going to talk about like, hey, like should we promote women saying never have kids and go be girl boss? Like, yeah, again, that's promoting the opposite of the gender role. I'm not necessarily saying we do that, but I think feminism in its purest form is probably fine. I don't think that's a terrible thing.
Okay, so should we promote women should be independent and sexual liberation and stuff like that?
I think that we should promote women should have the choice to be independent and have sexual liberation if they want to.
But we already know that they all have a choice. So the thing is, what I'm getting at here, and I want the audience to pay attention, is that he's totally against promoting gender roles and masculinity and femininity, the good things about it, right?
No.
But in regards to feminine, you are.
No, I said we should take the good things from it and promote it in a non-gendered way.
So in a non-gendered way. Oh, so
I'm against exclusively gendering things. So like, name me one thing for
you're against it, man.
Hold on, I did want.
Well, I'm curious, because I could change. They could change my mind here. Could you name me like a specific gender role, like a societal expectation of someone that would not be able to apply to both? Because when you say like, oh, give birth, you should have more babies. I don't really see that as a societal pressure insofar as like, yeah, we have to tell women to do this. Women have babies, they will do it. And if the replacement rate got to like a very, very low, like, hey, this is an existential crisis, I would probably promote some sort of government intervention. Like, look, guys, like in the same way conscription needs to happen to defend our country, woman, you got to have more babies, we're gonna all go extinct. Like, I understand that. That's very different from, hey, like men do this, women do this. I think those can be extrapolated to both genders.
All right. First of all, Soy Pill, we need to get one thing straight, okay? I need you to say women for me.
I can't. I promise. I fuck this up all the time. Women.
You've been watching too much TikTok, my friend, and it's women.
I don't watch any TikTok. I'm just stupid.
Woman, okay? All right. In terms of expectations, though, do you think that men can give birth?
If we're talking about woke trans ideology, yes. Otherwise, obviously, biologically,
so you think that men can give birth? That's fantastic. So how does
if they identify as a man and they're biologically female? Yes.
Okay, then let me refine the question for you, since this is not the topic of the debate. Can biological men give birth?
No, not yet. Sure. I heard there's womb transplants on the way, though.
Okay. Oh Lord!
But
can a baby goat give birth if she identifies if he identifies as a male?
Got him? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, in terms of this one, I think you're trying to evade the whole question about birth rates. You just said that if there was an existential crisis with the birth rate, then you would promote gender roles, right? You would promote that biological women should
I would
give
promote
birth. You would
women
want-
to
you would want a
have
government
more. I
campaign
would
about that.
incentivize them, yeah, but I don't think that's a gender role.
And how would you
insofar
do
as, like,
that?
the way we know them today.
How would you
Well,
do that?
it's funny because, like I said, I brought up Georgia, I brought up Hungary, and they're trying to do things by saying, "Hey, have 5 kids, you'll pay no taxes," or like, I guess maybe the Israel example works. I think that has a lot more to do with they feel like if they don't have enough babies, they will literally not have a country
Exactly.
anymore.
Exactly.
And they're that close to it. And I think, yeah, if we got that close to it, maybe we would have to promote that women should have more babies. But again, when I talk about gender roles, I'm not talking about, hey, what is the biological imperative? I kind of said this in my opening to avoid this because I don't think it's nearly as
I know you
important
want to
as
avoid
most of these other. It's not about avoiding it because I don't think it's like a thing I can defend. It's just, it doesn't matter insofar as, yeah, should we tell women that they need to have kids? I don't think we should, unless it was so existential that we had to, and I just don't think we're there yet.
Okay.
So it's more about the fact that, hey, should women be allowed, like, have the choice to go work? It's like, yeah, absolutely, we should say you can choose that if you want. Is it better if women are in the house? Well, if they want to do that, they should be able to. And I don't think we should say you're a bad woman or you're not a real woman if you don't do either of those things. But
right.
that's more of where I'm coming
Okay. Okay.
And let
okay.
me,
There's a
Jake,
lot.
for just a moment. I wanted to throw it back to Wick because he was waiting his turn for a while. I wanted to
A
give
little
him an
bit.
opportunity, and then back to you, Jake.
I mean,
A little bit.
there's a lot
I
to
will say
respond to,
that-
but yeah.
Sure.
Yes, you absolutely can. Just let Wick go through.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I ditched out for a minute, so maybe I missed the answer to this question, right? Simply because my internet just had a hiccup. So if I do, just please repeat it for me. Forgive me for that. But did you ever answer Soy's question about what is a specifically like a masculine trait that only applies to men?
Yeah, defending the
They
country.
said the give birth
militarily.
one, but even though I kind
Yeah,
of
but we're
Defending
getting
the
into
country,
we're getting into
again, when you- if
listen,
I may-
listen,
if I may
Wick,
respond
Wick,
to that.
Wick. If you're going
If I may
to sit
respond
here
to
and
that.
argue with
Of
me
course
that
not.
women can exclusively defend the country and that men don't have the imperative to defend the country, then we're just going
Hold
to
on,
get into a
did you defend-
territory of
Have you ever
absurdum.
defended the country? Have you ever served?
Okay, so that means that men can't defend the country. Well done. Yes, great
Have
argument.
you ever served?
Great argument, Wick.
No, I'm just
Great
asking
argument.
just so I know
Because
how much
I've never done it.
If I
that
may,
means that
Jake,
men
he's
can't.
not saying
Yeah.
that men can't
Okay.
defend the country. He's saying that this is clearly not a gender role that only men can like do this. In
Absolutely. I
fact, most
just don't
men
know-
don't. I mean, like the percentage of people in the military that are men, or just people in
Go
the
ahead,
military
Wick, ask
period,
your
is
Yeah, I
like
just
a very
question.
small
well,
percentage.
the reason I'm asking, right, is because I don't know how much I have to explain to you about how like our defense structure works, our defensive industrial base, or anything regarding war or anything like that works. So I need to know how much experience you have with it. Have you ever served
No.
in any capacity? No. Okay. So we have a wealth of people in the American military, right, and also in the Israeli military, which you mentioned to somehow support your point that women can't defend the country and things like that. There's this thing called technology, and it works wonders. We have, and you can see this in the Ukraine and Russian war. A lot of the fighting now is done via drones, and sure, it's not exclusively to that, but to act as if women cannot support our defense and serve in the country, and that it is a strictly masculine trait to defend the country is just forgive the French here, but it's bullshit.
Okay, what's the
Well,
death?
yeah,
what's
and
the
what
death
is-
toll? If you look at the death toll of the Russia-Ukraine war, what is it meant to women, Wick?
Do you know?
Yeah, but do you know?
What is it? Tell me.
Well, you don't. You seem like an expert about it.
I'm
You seem
I'm
like an
just
expert about
asking you what
warfare.
you
So
think
do
it
you
is.
know? Do you know what the death toll is? If you had to guess, what would it be?
And then name all the
sure
oblasts.
that more men have died than women because more men serve. Than
What do
women.
you think? What do you think roughly? Like if you had to give me a percentage, how many percentage of people do you think would
10
be
to
men?
1, 5 to 1, something like that.
Yeah,
500 to 1.
it's at least not over 99% men who are dying in warfare. Do you think that's a coincidence, Wick? Do you think that's just because maybe the women are so
I
good
already
at combat
told you
they're
it's
just
because
dodging bullets, or
most
do you
of
think that
the-
it's
most of
because
the people
the
serving on
men
the front
are the
line are
ones
men?
who are conscripted
Let
to the
Jake
front
go then.
line to defend the country because they're literally fighting with bayonets in some regards, and they're fighting in hand-to-hand combat. You're saying that the warfare is so different. No, it's not. This is like World War I, World War II type warfare that's happening over in Russia, Ukraine at the moment. And there's thousands and thousands of men dying every single day. So you can sit there from your little studio and say that, oh, hypothetically, women could press a button and women could drop a bomb. But that's just not the reality of the way that things are working. And it's the exact same thing in the Israeli-Hamas war at the moment.
Well, maybe the
All
women
men
aren't dying because they're smart and they're hiding behind the drone controller.
No,
You know,
That's
Like, all the
probably what it
stupid
is. And
men
they're
are
probably
going
just
out.
dodging
This is,
bullets.
It's just silly, right? To
Okay,
think that,
tell me how it's silly.
Sure, there are women right now in the American military who help pilot drones and things like that, and these are very, very lethal weapon systems, lethal equipment. And while yes, there are places where it takes strength Who do you think would win in a fight? If I gave a woman a gun and you didn't have a gun, and I told you, you guys get to fight, and you had to put money on who's going to win that fight, who would it be?
Yeah, well, it's disanalogous. How about we say this? This is a fair analogy.
Answer my question,
This is a fair analogy. If you give a man a gun and a woman a gun, who do you think is more likely to win?
Cannot answer the question.
Well, because it's a stupid question. If you give a woman a gun and she's pointing at the man and the man has no gun, obviously the woman is going to be able to kill him. But it's disanalogous, Wick, because if you have a Russian man with a gun and a Ukrainian woman with a gun, or let's say we have 20 on each side, 20 men, 20 women, the women are getting smoked every single time. The women are going to get
smoked. They have better training than the Russian military?
There's a whole host of factors that would allow women to just entirely smoke that regiment of men. Mostly it would come on to intelligence.
It's funny it's really funny how this is just not happening in reality. This is just a complete figment of your imagination, Wick. This is just not happening in reality. So you can sit here and you can argue all day, we could give the women some special forces training. But why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they doing that?
99% of the casualties are men.
Yes.
So that might suggest that the women are dying at a less high rate because they are better at it.
No, because they are not in the military. They are not in the military, Wick.
I'll just let the audience decide on that
I'll
one.
refocus it a little bit, Wick, because I don't think he's understanding, or maybe he's just being disingenuous. But obviously, there's more men in the military for a reason.
Yes,
women are in the
role.
Women are in the military in some supportive roles and some of the roles that you stated as well. But it's on a macro level, would you want a lot of women to join? Like his example, 20 women versus 20 men. The men would destroy them. And it's not because like Soy Pill said, let me finish. It's not because like Soy Pill said, well, they can probably destroy the men if they had better training. No, it's from a biological thing, right?
What biological imperative makes them better at shooting?
Incorrect. Biologically, men are better at reflexes. Men are better at eye-hand coordination and a multitude of other things.
They're stronger to carry the equipment.
They're stronger to carry the equipment, everything. Biologically, men are just better operators at guns and everything else, bro. Women will get destroyed.
I mean, this is kind of a silly hypothetical, so I don't really jump in too much further, because I do have a question, and this kind of brings this back to this gender roles thing. So I would posit that you would both agree with this, but let me know if you don't. Do you think that men have a duty to defend the household?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So would you say if the man's at work and someone comes in and the mom is there with the kids, does she have a duty to defend her kids?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yes.
Okay. So would you say that then we could both say, hey, parents should probably defend their children, and we can say that without gendering it, and that's totally a fine statement, and takes the positives from both of those gender roles and says, hey, why don't we promote good behavior that's going to make society flourish by saying, be a virtuous person and defend your children?
Hold on a second. Do you believe that a man has a duty to defend his household? Or would you put your wife in front? Okay, so then you believe what we believe.
See how you've like now implicated a situation where, hey, don't you think it's worse if you throw the weaker and less effective person into the fray when you have a dangerous situation? And I've completely not talked about that at all. Like,
weaker and less
I
effective?
agree. I don't think you should. I also don't think that a child should be on the front line of that and say, hey, you know, I'm going to throw my kid in front of the bullets so I can get a couple extra shots off. But I'm saying that both the man and the woman should be protecting their household to the extent of their abilities. And you don't have to say, hey, if you can't do this, you're a bad man or you're a bad woman.
Hold on a second. So just quickly, you do agree that you just said that women are weaker and less effective?
Yeah, in principle and in general, I don't think in every case, but yeah, in most cases.
So therefore,
Wick,
it would be Wick, do you agree?
That's just factual.
Physically, yes.
Okay, cool. Well, so then,
but again, if my wife had a gun and
yeah.
I did not, then the one with the gun is going to be doing the work.
Okay, let's just give the women the guns. I'm sure they'll be super turned on by that statement.
If they happen to have it. Again, you're positing this situation, right? Where like,
listen, if the woman has the gun, she throws the gun to the man.
I guess I don't get to talk.
I just heard the collective vagina
yeah,
of every woman in this whole
I want
entire
to
chat
just kind of reset the panel, and I want to just throw a funny little joke out there. I think I'm the only one here that actually has served in the military.
I served for 6 years.
Oh, I'm sorry, Wick,
yeah, I was
didn't
a
know.
linguist. That's why I asked, right? That's why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah.
Unlike
the
I guess you got your chatters who are like the MEAL Team 6, the people like that, right? But no, I've served alongside many women in the armed services, the Air Force specifically.
I think we should carry on that line though, just in terms. So you guys actually agree that women are weaker and less effective than men. That completely makes our point about the military thing. That you just made our point. You just completely just destroyed your own argument.
What's your point? That
our
all
point
men should serve
is
in the
that
military?
You were saying that women can be as effective at military and that they're dying at lesser rates because they're just so damn good at it. They're just
I was
dodging
joking
bullets.
about
No,
the
I
whole
was
there's
you
fighters
guys
and
are saying.
hold on,
dodging
if I
bullets.
may. I was making fun of your point. You understand why I was saying that, right? Because I was making fun of your dumbass point from earlier where you said 99% of men are dying. It's because, yes, you have far more men in the military than you have women. So obviously that's going to be the case. But to act as if that means something in the case of the argument that we're having with gender roles is just not true. Look,
Well, it does mean something. Let me stop you right there.
I said at the beginning, I said it, you can't stop me
I've
right
been
there.
blown out
So I
there.
said at the beginning, right? I said at the beginning of this discussion during my opening statement that I think the best person for the job that just so happens to be men in many cases. But when we go into these traditional gender roles and we make them strict and we make them restrictive, what that does is that women who might happen to be better marksmen than everyone else, right, that's around them, which can happen. I'm sure you would agree. Like, it might be rare, but it can happen. When we make these gender roles too restrictive, what we do is we lessen our ability to have the best person for the job in there. And again, while I, on general, might be way more able to carry equipment and hike farther and things like that, if the woman in my squad happens to be a better shot than me, they're going to be taking point because obviously.
So here's what I wanted to say.
Did he freeze?
No.
No.
Still
Oh,
I thought he
I
froze.
apologize. You made
I'm
such-
very
it was-
still at times.
How do you think he survived in the military so long? They
Sure,
couldn't
I
see
thought
him.
he froze for a second. But
Camo.
so in regards to this whole point about the military and everything like that, like, it was a lot of influence behind getting men to be in the military. This is why men go towards being in the military. If you even look at, like, commercials in the 90s, there were so many commercials that was pushing forth a lot of propaganda to get men in the 90s, the 80s, the 50s, all of it. It was a lot of influence. And also the military, they have a big recruiting team to recruit men into the military. So think about if we just took that away. Think about if we took the influence away of the military influencing society to join for their service. If we took that away, there will be less men. There will most likely be less men going into the military.
But
That would
again,
conclude to that. Yes, right?
We're not arguing to say we should get rid of military recruitment. We're saying it doesn't make you less of a man if you don't serve in the military. And this kind of goes back. We keep bringing up military. I don't know why. This is such a small minority of the population, let alone men. And to say that it's a male gender role is ridiculous because most men don't embody this at all. And that's kind of
I
the
got you,
point.
but you're missing something, because remember my question, which you never answered. My question that you never, no, you didn't answer it. My question that you never answered was when you said that people should have the freedom to choose, right? And then I said, well, influence is one of the most powerful forces out there, right?
Okay.
So should we influence people to adhere to gender roles, or should we influence people not to? And
I said no, first of all. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that telling men to go into the military is a
one you said no. To that one you said no. To the other question, my follow-up, well, should we influence the masses towards feminism? You said you couldn't answer the question. You couldn't answer the question. So it seems, stop it, Soy Pill. Stop it.
Hold on.
I'll elaborate.
Hold on. David, please finish your statement, and then Soy Pill, you're welcome to respond.
Yeah, so it seems, Soy Pill and also Wick, it seems that you are fully okay with promoting and influencing the masses towards sexual liberation and some degenerate behavior and away from gender roles. Well, okay, cool. Well, let's just say away from gender roles. Away from. It seems that you are okay with influencing the masses away from gender roles. That is true, but you have a problem with gender roles. You have this problem, and you even know, y'all both concluded that, well, not pushing society, you do know the positive effects of gender roles. When people adhere to gender roles, you do know the positive effects. So if we know that influence is the most powerful force, well, shouldn't we want to influence the masses towards something that we know brings about a positive result rather than a negative result? We know the negative results of feminism, but you didn't. Oh, you said, oh, well, no, I think that feminism is cool. It's
No.
good. It's a good thing.
No, hold on. So again, let me respond real quick, and then you can jump in because this is me not answering the question.
I think
what
we
I
might
said
have
was not
different answers,
we
by the way,
need.
but-
Yeah, and I think actually we would disagree on this, Wick. So go ahead, feel
Yeah,
free to contradict me. I'm not saying we should promote feminism and we shouldn't promote traditional gender roles. I again spoke from a very vague term of, hey, we should promote good behaviors, and we're probably going to disagree on which those behaviors are. I'm saying those good behaviors don't need to be gendered, and I'm saying that, yeah, if you're promoting feminism, you're probably going to be promoting potentially some harmful behaviors. That doesn't mean we should promote feminism. The only thing I said was, well, because feminism is such a encompassing term, if we're just going off the definition of should people be able to choose, should women have more choice in society, then yeah, I guess I'm promoting choice and you're promoting, no, I think that men and women should be in this very strict kind of lane, and that's just what I want to move away from. I think that people should be able to choose what they want to choose. If that's what feminism is, then sure, but you're kind of promoting it as this like dichotomy of it's the opposite of gender roles, which to a degree it is if you think women traditionally shouldn't have more choice. But I'm not
it is the opposite
specifically
of gender
promoting
roles.
it.
Feminism, I mean, we all have a clear, I'm not sure what your definition of feminism is, but let's just, my definition would be that it's the move towards egalitarianism where men and women are equal. And you concluded with your own statement where Jake checked you on, that women are weaker than men. So they're not equal to a man. You actually
feminism existing as men and women are going to become the same strength.
Hold on.
You do not want to stop the promotion of feminism, but you want to stop the promotion of gender roles. It doesn't make any sense where you know yourself that feminism is rooted into nonsense. It's not even rooted into reality. You know that men are stronger than women. Look at you. You got a little tight shirt on with your muscles out. You're probably going to the gym. So you adhere to some reality. Plane landed.
Real quick, I have to keep responding because I keep
just-
saying feminism is just.
let's go
if
Soy
I'm
and
just
then
saying
Rick.
feminism is women having the ability to choose. If you want to make it a more specific definition, we can get into the minutia of whether or not I agree with, hey, should we promote XYZ behavior? I just think people should be able to choose what they want, and if that's what feminism is, then I'm fine with that. If
So
especially
everything
if
is
it's the
choice
opposite.
to you, soy pill.
What do you mean?
Soy, were
No,
you
I'm just.
done?
You asked me to define feminism, so I'm
So,
saying
but
in the most
you're-
vague terms.
But everything is choice to you. That's what I'm saying. So you're saying feminism is freedom to choose. Gender roles is freedom to choose. Like
Well, it sounds
everything
like
is freedom
gender
to
roles
choose.
aren't
not
a
think,
freedom
hold
to
on,
choose,
if
right?
I may,
Go
if I
ahead,
may,
Rick.
I just want to jump in here. Cooley, do you not think, is that your name, Cooley? Am I getting that right? I don't want to
Yes.
get it wrong.
You got it correct.
Do you not think, or do you think that women should not be able to choose what they do in their life?
That isn't what I said.
That's what I'm
saying that-
asking. I'm asking so I can know your answer.
I've already. So you wasn't active listening. I already answered the question, and I agreed with Soypa. I said, well, yeah, I do think people should have freedom of choice, but I said that
You
influence.
went on a monologue about how
I said influence
against soy, about how oh, is choice everything to you? And I guess to ask you that question, right? When is your line where choice is not the issue? When do women not get to choose for
He's
themselves? Or
speaking
men,
about
for that
influence,
matter,
not choice.
Not get
I'm
to choose.
speaking about influence. I'm saying that influence is a huge predictor on what someone is going to choose. Like,
it possibly,
Influence creates. Stop it. Influence creates thinking. Thinking creates behavior.
Do you think that influence is a form of control?
Sure.
Influence can be used as a form of control.
Okay. I think that people have the ability to break away from their influence. There's plenty of influences that I have felt in my life where I've decided, you know what, even though I'm being influenced to do a certain thing, I am a free agent and capable of free choice, and I'm able to not succumb to that influence and do other things, right? So the reason I'm advocating here tonight against this enforcement of strict traditional gender roles is because I think that influencing
strict gender roles,
that society, community, etc., trying to influence people into these strict gender roles does a lot of harm to people because it restricts their choice. As you've admitted right here, it is a form of control. And I think that we should not, neither society nor the government, should be in the business of trying to control its citizens to that degree. And I think that if a woman wants to go out and enter the workforce, she should be allowed to do so and not looked down upon for doing so. And if a man wants to be a stay-at-home dad and wants his wife to go out and work, that should be their choice. Unless you're married to the guy, it shouldn't be your decision.
Can I just really quickly?
So would you stop the influence of feminism? Real quick, would you stop the influence of feminism?
I think that has been pernicious in many ways too. Yes.
Yeah.
You would. Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, cheers, man. So you said that the government shouldn't be. Well, how did you feel about the mask mandates?
How did I feel about the mask mandates?
Yeah.
Do you think those were gendered?
No. I'm
I
just
think
saying.
that the government has a duty to protect its citizens. I didn't
Ah.
like the mandates. I don't like mandates in general. I didn't like the COVID lockdowns.
Wait.
I didn't like the mandate vaccines, anything like that.
But
I don't think
would
that these
you?
are the similar thing to society influencing
There's a
its citizens.
line
to
of
perform a certain
questioning,
gender
and
role.
you'll be able to understand. So, did you think that it was good that people were wearing masks?
Was it good?
Yeah.
I think it was neutral.
Okay.
I
Did you
didn't
think that
see
it was
as
good that
or
people were
evil.
getting the vax?
I think that it was neutral, neither good nor evil.
Okay. Do you think it's good that we don't? Do you think that it would be good if we don't have domestic violence?
Do I think it would be good to not have domestic violence? Sure.
Yeah. So, do you think that the government should be promoting people not to engage in domestic violence?
Yes, I think there should be laws against domestic violence. I agree.
Okay. So you're saying that the government
Brave.
should. So you're saying that the government should promote certain behaviors.
Yes, but not
Why?
gender roles.
Why should they do that? Why should you? But you made a sweeping statement before. You said that the government should not be influencing people to do this. Why? Why should they influence people to do that?
If you listen to my entire statement, I said the government should not be influencing or controlling its citizens in regards to gender roles and their choices of how to live their lives and what to do. Now, obviously, there are some basic restrictions on this. I can't go out and punch someone in the face. I think it should be against the law for me to do so. I shouldn't be able to go out and choose to steal someone's stuff because it negatively impacts others. But when it comes to being a parent, right, or a stay-at-home dad, or a mom who works and things like that, I don't think that these have enough negative impacts on society to warrant the government coming in and mandating it. Do you think they should be mandated? Do you think that the government should come in and place restrictions on men staying at home?
Well,
instead of
first of
being in
all,
the
I just want to
workforce?
point out that that's not what you said before. What you said before is that the government should not be in the business of influencing people like we're saying. We are saying the opposite thing. We are saying
But
that
it was
there
in the
should be some
context of
sort
this
of
whole
societal
conversation.
influence and governmental
Are you dumb?
influence on good behaviors. I mean, you can try and just throw ad hominems if you want there, but unfortunately,
You can try to
when you
pronounce it.
when you take your
But no.
position here, this is how people end up with driving their white van and getting caught on Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator. When you take your exact position here, this is how
You know a
men
lot
end
about
up
that.
in those positions. So, anyways. Yeah.
Wait, can you elaborate on that? I'm
in regards to well, this is weak men who don't have a purpose in life and
No,
who
how
don't
did
have
you get
who
caught
don't
by
have
Chris Hansen?
who don't
Oh.
have an imperative. I was actually going to
No,
ask
tell
you
us how you got
I
caught
was
by
actually
Chris
going to
Hansen.
ask you
Tell
the
us.
very
I'm
same
very
thing
curious to
because
explain.
you look
No,
awfully
you would.
familiar, and I
All
thought you looked
right,
really familiar. Anyways,
I would be interested with an elaboration on how it gets from point A to point B. I think Soy was asking for it.
Yeah, I was
if you
asking,
want to
how does
elaborate.
lack of gender roles lead to white vans kidnapping children and
well, I mean, look, if you deprive men of purpose and if you deprive men of mission and the ability to be able to have a family and to be able to pursue legacy, this is when men get depressed and when men basically fall off the rails. So whenever I see these guys who end up in these really terrible situations like Wick, where he ends up on Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator, I always think that there's just a distinct lack of purpose there, and that comes from performing your own
Talk a
masculine
lot
duty.
about kids, man. That's weird.
yeah. So
Okay, let's not go
can I
down that
respond?
road.
Hold on. He just talked about how I was going on Chris Hansen.
I will
thing.
say,
We
I will
all-
say,
If
we're gonna
handle
you don't have to defend
we're
it.
gonna
all right?
count
It's
that
not-
handle
as
this,
balance
he shouldn't have
between
brought
both
it
of you. It's fair across the board. That piece is done in terms of
Okay,
talking about
fair.
men and children
Your
in
house,
that
your rules.
aspect.
Look,
Um,
my issue is
you
this
can
idea
still
that this is a
sorry, you could still inquire, but we're gonna keep the insults of the PDF stuff to a minimum now.
right. So my issue is, again, you keep burying this argument that we've never made, that if we don't enforce specific gender roles, then somehow men will lose purpose and they'll all start driving these white vans around. And we're not saying that you can't be in a gender role. We're saying that the influence, again, kind of to bring it back to Cooley, and I actually do acknowledge Cooley, I guess I wasn't really addressing the whole idea of what this influence is doing and where this influence should be. And what we're saying, just to be clear, is that the influence of traditional gender roles is what's causing the harm, and we can do that influence of promoting what you probably probably would agree is the good behavior. Like, hey, men, you need purpose. Hey, men, you need to go out and be productive. Hey, woman, you need to have purpose as well. We're saying we
did
do
it.
this.
We got the Chris Hansons to catch a predator in there.
You can't tell people that they should, if they want to go in the home, that they shouldn't be able to go be productive. We should deprive them of their purpose. It's just saying, let's make sure everyone has these choices. And what we influence is behaviors that most of society could probably agree is good, right? Hey, everyone should go out and get a job and have some sort of purpose. I think we could all agree. Yeah, you shouldn't be sitting inside your house playing video games all day and just like deprive yourself of any purpose. This is not necessarily gendered language, and we're just trying to move away from it, because if you keep it gendered, then what you're doing is saying, well, anyone who can't embody this specific role of what I have defined a man or woman to be is somehow less of a human being, and that is going to cause what you're talking about, which is these like depressed, weak men potentially going into bad places, and the same for the woman. And I think, as I stated at the beginning, this gender role and what men embody in it is so outdated that men now are a lot depressed on a whole, because they do what the society expects them to, and it's not paying off for them because it's not enough. We have to promote more behaviors that are traditionally with women.
And if I may just piggyback off that just very briefly, right? It's this idea that masculinity. One of the things that I have a problem with this conversation is I don't believe that either of you, Jake or Cooley, really know what it is to be a man. I really don't. Let me ask you this question. Do you think that we should be promoting people like Andrew Tate?
Promoting? What do you mean by promoting?
Answer,
you go for
easy answer here.
Yeah,
can you
you said promoting people like Andrew Tate. I mean,
yes. Is Andrew Tate a good example of masculinity?
Well, like, should the president like
Andrew
invite
Tate
him into the White House and shake his hand and say, "Hey, you're cool"?
I mean, the president. Well, Obama and Biden, they definitely shook a lot of feminist hands. So yeah, for sure, they can shake Andrew Tate's hand.
No, I'm not talking about shaking hands. Do you think that Andrew Tate is a good example of masculinity?
For sure, there's many examples that he embodies that's good masculinity. I don't believe in the term of toxic masculinity, but real quick, because I see you trying to, and we'll get back.
Women and rapes them.
No, he hasn't been convicted of anything. You're a liar. So real quick, question for you, Soy Pill, because you were speaking about the purpose of men and women. Pretty much, you're saying that, and correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying that, well, we shouldn't gender things. That's my whole thing. Your whole thing, the Soy Pill, is we shouldn't gender things. We should say, hey, here's a purpose for everyone. Here's a purpose for these people. But my question for you is, if you don't gender it, then how can someone see themselves in it?
I don't know. Have you never seen a woman do anything that you thought was like commendable in any way? Like, can you only ever see commendable behavior in people that look and sound like you? It's kind of an interesting question. I think it's very easy to see someone and say, "Hey, I respect that person regardless of their gender, and I want to embody their behavior." That's not what
I'm
you
saying.
said. How do people see themselves in it, right? Like if I say, "Hey, people should go have purpose in life. You should work hard. You should be fastidious, and you should bring home bacon." And whether or not I show you an example of a woman or a man doing that, I think is completely irrelevant to whether or not I've done a good job of promoting that.
Soy Pill. Yeah. If I say, listen, your mom tells you, "Hey, Soy Pill, I want you to go to the store and get some." Okay, great. She says, "Hey, I want you to go to the store and get some food," but she doesn't tell you specifically what to get.
Okay.
And you bring back the wrong stuff.
This is a weird analogy. I understand the problem here.
Yeah, it is a problem here. Let me finish it. She tells you, "Hey, Soy Pill, go to the store and get me some food."
Get some stuff.
You go to the store and bring back some food. She said, "This is the wrong food." Well, you didn't tell me what type of food you want me to get. So then you go back to the store. It takes you about 10 tries to go to the store. Then you finally bring back the right stuff. But if your mom would have said, "Bring back the chicken because we need that for the protein. Bring back some blueberries because you need that for your brain to operate good." She tells you specifically what type of foods to bring back so she can cook and they can nourish your body.
And did you notice like none of those instructions, no matter how specific they were, had to do with whether or not I had a penis or a vagina? And then you can just tell me?
Stop it. If I tell you, right, if I'm speaking to someone, and the analogy I'm making is this: hey, you should be men. You should be protectors. You should be providers. You should have emotional control. You should love your wife.
Women shouldn't have these things? I'm curious. Do you think that women shouldn't have these things?
Yeah, should women have more emotional control? I think they should.
I didn't
Like,
even
every
finish. You
good
guys
thing
cut
that-
me off.
Well, it's
I
because
I
every
didn't
good thing
even-
you're about to
I
say,
didn't
regardless
even
of what it
finish.
is, I think can be applied
I'll
to
go
both
ahead
ends,
and
unless you're
allow
talking
it.
about a biological
David, go,
imperative.
Yeah, I
David,
didn't
go
even
ahead and
finish.
finish.
Yeah.
Go
So I
ahead
know
and
that you
finish.
look at these things as being gender neutral roles, right? But they're not exactly gender neutral roles. So, like I said before in my opening, men have a natural propensity and women have a natural propensity to be attracted and repulsed by certain things in the opposite sex. Attraction isn't symmetrical, it's asymmetrical. So like you're attracted to certain characteristic traits in a woman and she's not attracted to those same characteristic traits in you. That's just life. Magnets attract, opposites attract, right? So what I'm saying is there's certain things that men need to embody as a man, and he needs to be told specifically by his father, you should embody these. So then he can go out there and embody them and find them. If you just don't tell him anything, it's like the analogy I'm saying he's just going to the grocery store and getting the wrong food, embodying the wrong behaviors, maybe embodying all these feminine type of characteristic traits, which women are not attracted to. So then this man grows up and he's involuntary celibate. He can't mate with a chick because he got all these feminine characteristic traits because he didn't have a father there to tell him, hey, I need you to identify with this. You need to embody this. So we need to gender things so people can see themselves in it.
Okay, I see
That's
kind
my
of what
point.
you're saying. I have a lot of qualms with it. Like, first of all,
I don't. Well,
obviously,
please help me because
you don't.
I am lost, man.
Well, so what
Maybe
he's
I'm
trying
sure
to
you
say is,
don't,
look,
Wick
there's a
TV.
biological imperative of attraction, and in general, because there are traditionally masculine things that women are. Tell me if I'm wrong, by the way, Cooley. Because there are things that are traditionally embodied by men, and most women find these things attractive. Therefore, we should promote that behavior because if not, you're going to have a society of people who will never be able to find a mate. Everyone's going to be despondent, and nothing will ever, progress
Sure,
from
I
there.
think
Is that
that
kind of what you're saying,
promoting
Cooley?
Andrew Tate as masculine is going to drive birth rates off a cliff. It's just gonna no one should listen to
Wick,
either
he
of these
wasn't
clowns
talking to you,
ever
man.
again.
Y'all on the
They're
same
just
team. He was
crazy.
asking me a question.
I thought this was going to be an interesting discussion, but it turns out that you guys are promoting Andrew Tate, and I'm like, okay, well, you don't understand what masculinity is.
Bro, what do you promote? Barney? Let me ask you, what do you promote? Barney?
Promote Barney. What
Yeah,
I
you
promote
look
is
like you
freedom of
promote
choice.
Barney.
What I promote is love of country, patriotism. What I promote, sir, is actual masculinity, right?
Ooh,
So maybe sit
tough
down
man.
and learn
okay,
from
let
a
me ask
man.
you a
I'm sorry
question,
that you
Wick
had
I'd
TV.
like to kick
this
it back
thing.
to Soy because I don't think you were
What's Matt?
finished
Real quick,
talking.
please,
Hold
please.
on,
I want to
hold
just
on,
ask him.
because Soy was interrupted, and then the two of you can do all of this.
But he was
after.
interrupted by his own teammate.
I understand.
So let me
but
answer
I
his
still-
teammate. Let me reply back.
Wait,
to
I
what
don't
his
want to be
teammate
cut. I
said.
want to interrupt my interruption. All right, can I do that?
Yeah,
Can
go
I keep
ahead,
talking?
Soy.
David,
Yeah, okay,
please allow
so-
Soy to finish his thought.
So this idea that, well, men need to be this very specific masculine role because as a society, like most women are attracted to this thing and this things otherwise things won't progress. Is that kind of what was I accurate in determining that was kind of what your argument was, that if we don't embody these things, society as a whole collapses because of the natural things that women are attracted to?
I'm not saying as a whole. What I'm saying is there's always exceptions to every rule, right? So even if people
For majority. Right.
For majority, yes. So
right.
even if we push a whole lot of propaganda, the crazy thing is biology and nature always wins. You can try to nurture society and to do some nonsense to go against their biological proclivities. You can try to nurture that, but nature in due time will win.
So
right?
Why are you worried about promoting anything if nature's going to win, right?
Well, guess what? That could take some years from now. I want my children. Do you guys have kids? Probably don't have kids. Probably never planted your seed in anything. And then you got Wick over here talking about, you're not even a man. You're not even masculine. I got multiple kids, been planting my seed all the time. Mm-hmm. So anyways,
you think that makes you a man?
Okay.
Well, okay. Can I ask?
Man, Wick TV.
Do you think that makes
you a man, Wick TV?
Random women.
Who said random? What makes you a man, Wick TV? How do you know you're a man? Yeah, no. How do you know that you're a man?
So am I a man if I impregnate your partner?
How do you know that you're a man?
I think one of the and I do appreciate this question in all honesty, because I think we do need to talk about what masculinity actually is, right? I think masculinity is self-control, responsibility, right? And that's what I think that a lot of forgive me for saying this, but your side lacks is responsibility, taking responsibility for one's own place in the world. It's not the evil woke or the evil feminism that is causing you problems. It's your choices, right? Take some responsibility, man up, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and recognize that you will have to adjust to the world around you, right? You will have to adjust to how the world works and operate within there. I think men should be protectors and providers, but so should women in their spheres as well. I think that these are good traits that I want both my daughters to learn and my sons, my nieces and my nephews, my women friends and my male friends. I want them all to embody these traits because I think it's important. When I think of manhood, I think that the biggest word that comes to mind is responsibility. And that's what I think that we need to be teaching, not gender roles or anything like that. It's, hey, be a responsible person, a responsible adult. Take responsibility for your actions. Take responsibility for your choices. And if things are, if you're struggling, figure out why and fix it.
Hey, Wick, I actually agree with you, but I do think that you need to stop being responsible to all them Twinkies and hit the gym because, like, you saying something, but you're not practicing what you're saying. We can see it. We can see that you are not practicing what you're saying.
Critique my physique next. Okay, I guess not. Cooley, could you point me to something that be what you would consider a promotion of a masculine trait that is exclusive or not exclusive, that is not exclusive to the current time period we live in? So something that you're like, oh, well, women are attracted to XYZ thing. I think if you look at a lot of the things that society today expects of men, I mean, now everyone's got like broccoli hair and skinny jeans. You probably wouldn't find that particularly masculine, but a lot of women are into that stuff. A lot of women are into these like girly men K-pop things. And you look across like all these societies, all these different times in history, and a lot of this, like what is masculine has changed all the time. I think the only like really through line is that men biologically are the ones who are going to give the sperm and women biologically are the ones who are going to receive the seed. And while you might have those biological influences kind of pushing people in different directions, gender wise, of like, oh, in the BC times we had hunter-gatherers because women weren't as strong. I think today, and you kind of mentioned this in your opening, today we do have all this technology. Today we do live in a modern society, and today we don't need those gender roles the same way we used to. That's kind of our whole point. So could you point to like a specific thing like that men need to embody that otherwise women won't like them?
Yeah, I think that there's a bunch of them. And if you're going to be a broccoli-haired soy boy or whatever, then you're just not going to do very well with women. And oftentimes when you look at this whole K-pop phenomenon, the one thing that they all have in common is that these K-pop guys have a very high social status. So that is what the women are looking at in those regards. If you get some random broke broccoli-haired soy boy with skinny jeans, he's just not going to do well with women, and that's just not borne out by reality. But if he's a part of a boy band that's performing in front of 100,000 people, then yeah, women look at social status. And the reason why they look at social status is because those men are able to provide, and those men are guys who other people look up to, and women are inherently attracted to that feature. And those men have influence, and women are very attracted to men who have influence. So to say that that there is no real sort of like through line or commonality between what women are attracted to in regards to masculinity, that's just bullshit. Women are attracted to good physiques with men. Women are attracted to good physiques with men. Women are not attracted to guys who look like Teletubbies, okay? Women are attracted to men who have earning potential. They're attracted to high status males. They're attracted to men who have some sort of a social standing. And this is
why do poor people have more kids?
Look, and this is to the audience. If you want women, you don't have to be a K-pop star, but being good at music, and I can testify to this, really helps. Just
save some pussy for the rest of us.
If you're good at guitar, if you're good at drums, right? Don't worry, right? You'll get yours. I'll save a few for you, okay? But look, there will all be of age though, so just
hey, soy pill.
Can you
real quick. But like this idea that
I want to hear his answer.
Status and things like that. Status is absolutely something that people are attracted to. But that's not just something only women are attracted to. Men are attracted to status as well. And again, like this idea that you have to be rich and things like that, all these help. But have a skill, have a talent. It really helps. Trust me.
What was the question?
Hey, Wick. So the same question that the soy pill asked us. What would you do to attract a woman? You said music. Other than music, what would you do to attract a chick?
Other than music? Well, it depends on the woman, right?
How do you get chicks?
What they find attractive, and then I'd do that.
Generally speaking, how do you
mating dance is typically involved at some point.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like if you're gonna unironically learn to dance. You go to You learn some swing dancing, things like that. You go to a ballroom dancing place. Man, oh man, women love dancing. Yeah.
So women love dancing and
the
music.
absurdity of all this, because like what we're all talking
Women love
about
dancing
is
and
like,
what? Do you not think they do?
No, oh my
If
god,
a
yes,
man
of
can
course.
dance, do you not
man.
Some
think
women
women
like
find
dancing,
that attractive?
but the point
They
is we're talking.
No,
in
I want to hear Wick
generalities
keep on
that are-
spitting
Yeah,
game.
I wanna hear Wick.
Wick,
Yeah,
spit
yeah, Wick.
game. Tell us. Give us the formula.
Like, how do you
subscribe.
approach
You
a
can
woman,
subscribe
Wick?
to my podcast. You ain't getting the milk
Look at
for free.
status, okay? He's got
That's
this
side-eye.
big podcast with all
like
these
Ain't
you,
big
getting the milk
people
for
on.
free.
It's the
You gotta
side
pay
eye.
me if you want me to help you out, and I can help you out. I understand both of you struggle, right? But you can
No,
can
Wick,
help you out.
I don't think that any woman on this planet would choose to lay down with you and allow her to pregnate you.
I mean, you don't think in general.
I don't
so
think
that's
that.
okay.
I truly don't
refute
think
him.
that. I think that you
Leak your nudes.
don't have the ability. So if you think about it, since the beginning of time, about 90% of women procreated, about 40% of men procreated. So there was a lot of men that didn't procreate at all. Wick, I think that you're going to be one of them.
Well, you can think
I
that.
truly
but you'd
think
be
it.
wrong.
Please let me know, what would you do and what would you say to court a woman? Because we're speaking about gender
We
roles.
had a
Wait,
whole
wait,
conversation
wait,
about
wait,
that,
wait,
brother.
You said music and
please,
chicks.
please,
gentlemen,
So look,
can I
if you
clarify
see a
that
woman,
wasn't my
real quick,
question?
real quick,
Okay, I'm
question
gonna
was-
let this play out for just a couple more minutes
okay,
on
a question-
dancing and spitting game, and
Please
then we
do.
can get back.
Tell you
to
what,
this.
Got
Let
it.
it play
A
out.
question to Wick. No, Wick, stop. Wick, stop.
Yeah, Wick,
Question
would you
to you.
approach them
Here's
in the
my
gym?
here's my question.
Okay,
I'm
ask
gonna
me
give you.
questions.
I'm gonna give you the scenario and
You're
tell
gonna
me
pretend to be the
what
woman?
would you do. No. I'm gonna give you a
Ooh.
scenario and tell me what will you do to get the woman's number, and then get the first date. So you meet the woman at I'm gonna make it simple for you. Starbucks. What are you saying to this chick to bag her number and then to take her out on a date? Because we need to make sure you procreate. Matter of fact, I don't even let me stop. No, I'm gonna say it. I don't even think people like you should procreate, but I'm gonna still try to help you out to procreate. So go ahead. Let me know how you're gonna get a chick.
Jeez, wow.
Well, I'm. Thank you for thinking about my procreation. That's a little weird, man. But okay,
No, it's not
if
weird.
that's
We're
what you
talking
wanna
about gender
do,
roles.
right? Yeah, okay, fair enough. But
Look,
look, this is the problem with these questions, right? Like, you have to be in the moment. You have to actually be talking to a woman. And forgive me, but I have trouble looking at you and then trying to spit game because I'm just not attracted to you, brother. I'm sorry.
no, you being weird now, bro. This is how I
Yeah,
know
You're the
you.
one that made this
weird,
weird.
man.
No,
You
what?
just sat
You're
there and you
weird.
said,
This is
"Oh,
how
I want
I
you to
know.
give me your top tips on picking up women at Starbucks."
Oh
That's
man.
weird. That's weird.
But the ironic thing is here, we're speaking about gender roles, and before a nation starts, a relationship needs to start. So yeah, we can speak about it from the individual level of gender roles, and we can speak about it on the societal level of gender roles, right? So this is important in this debate. I need to know, and I'm sure the chat wants to know too. If you are so hyped up on we should abolish gender roles, tell me how you would pick up a chick.
don't
Do you
think
even
we
have
should
the ability to
abolish
get a
gender
girl?
roles. I don't think the
The
government or
Raging
society should
Tomato
promote
has
them.
officially turned into a speed dating show. I will have 7 lovely ladies prepped backstage for
For
We
facts.
can do that.
to
Hold
run
on.
his
Actually,
game.
Cooley,
Impregnate
if
so many
at some
people.
point you want, we can make a contest of this. We'll make a game. We'll monetize this shit. Okay? We can bring some women
must
on,
hate
have
your
a
money.
dating show, and see who they
You
choose.
must
no.
hate your
You're
money,
gonna
Wick.
lose, bro.
Money where your mouth is,
Yeah.
brother. Come
Yeah,
on.
I'll
You
definitely
think
put a
you
lot
can
of
pick up
money
more
on
women
that.
than me?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's make some shows. Come on, Cooley. You scared?
Okay, can I go back to the question I asked Cooley, which I promise you was not how do you pick up chicks? It was what was the traditional masculine role that you should tell someone to embody in order for society to progress that is somehow exclusive to this time, or that is not exclusive to this time, that has kind of been a perpetual thing throughout all of history.
Yeah, I mean, Jake answered it, but yeah, you should tell a man to embody certain characteristic traits, like to be decisive. That's a masculine trait. Women are indecisive. They don't know what they want to eat. So a man should be decisive. You should also tell a man to be dominant to an extent. You should tell him to have integrity.
But can I ask
you
a question? Because I want to go through some of these one at a time. Like, do you think in the cavemen days,
one
they
at
were
a
like,
time,
hey,
then sure.
saber-tooth or mammoth, and like the woman couldn't decide, or do you think they just kind of got what they needed because it was like a biological imperative to survive and eat? Like, do you think that those roles existed back then? The idea that they should be decisive.
Decisiveness. That
Your example is women can't decide what
No.
to eat, and that's why they're naturally like
No,
indecisive.
decisiveness is a huge thing that back in the saber-tooth tiger days
Yeah.
and caveman days they needed to have.
You think
need to
women
be
shouldn't be
decisive.
encouraged to be decisive?
I'm not saying that women shouldn't be encouraged to be decisive. Women are naturally not decisive. That's the difference. You get what I'm saying? Men are more decisive than women. Biology. Say that again.
Do you think women are indecisive because of gender roles, or do you think it's like purely biological? If we didn't have any society,
no. If we're comparing the two, yeah. If we're comparing the two, and I think that men should strive to be in a leadership position. So a leader should be decisive. A leader should be able to make a decision, a quick decision too. Sometimes at the snap of a finger, depending on if danger happens and stuff like
women
that.
Should do this
so
too,
if
right?
you're going back to saber-toothed tiger days, caveman days, yeah, the man would need to be decisive to make a quick decision to save his children and his family. Yes.
And do you think women shouldn't be decisive of when to run and when to hide when the saber-toothed tiger is attacking them? This is, again, every single good thing you're saying, women should be as well, right?
Guess what?
Like, which of these things are exclusively men?
Nobody's speaking in monoliths, though. This is the problem. No one's speaking in monoliths. Like you're trying to act like it's just that men just purely 100%. No, for a second. You've been speaking in monoliths, and he's been speaking in monoliths, and he's been saying that. Well, this is just something that is just completely. We're not saying that it's completely exclusive, but what we're saying is that outliers don't make the rule. We've actually made that distinction many times during this debate. So when you're talking about this, you yourself admitted before that women are weaker and less effective than men. So if women are, by and large, weaker and less effective than men, then that burden is generally speaking going to fall upon the man. And it should be good that men are able to actually take that burden and are actually able to run with it. And the burden of being able to protect your family. So if there is an intruder, the man should be able to go and sort out the intruder.
Just like back in the day, if there was a saber-toothed tiger,
bro's going to pick up his spear and he's going to try and fight the saber-toothed tiger while the woman runs away if she has to. This is just a commonality throughout history. Men have to harness that ability. Sure, if there isn't a man around and the woman is just there with the children, like the home invader situation, then sure, the woman will be responsible for protecting the children. But in an ideal sense, we don't want that situation. We want the man to be the protector, and so do you. So I don't really get your argument.
The thing that they're the best at, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we can say that everyone should protect their children. And hey, if you're the strongest person in the room, then you should be the one doing it. And when you say I'm the one speaking in monoliths, this entire time you guys have been saying women like this, men like this. And it's like, that's the monolith, right?
No, we're speaking in generalities. You're the one who's trying to refine generalities.
I'm saying that generally you don't have to say all of these things are prescriptive to all of these people and that people should have the freedom to choose what they want. And we don't need to promote them and say, hey, if you don't do this specific thing, you're a bad man. If a guy, I think if both of you would agree, right? If a guy doesn't protect his family, he's like a bad person, right? He's a coward. He's just not a good person, right? And if a woman did the same thing, she's probably also a coward, right? Now, you can say he has more of a responsibility because he would, with great power, right? He would be better at it. But we're saying that you shouldn't promote specifically, hey, only men should do this and only women should do this. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, if you agree with that, if you agree it's not a monolith, then we actually agree in this debate.
It's just a contradiction because you have yourself said that men are more effective, and if men are more effective, and if that burden is generally speaking going to fall upon the man, and you yourself just said that they're cowards and they're pussies if they don't do it, which is true, then we should be encouraging men to be able to shoulder that burden and do it the most effective way possible. So if that situation does arise, then the man can handle that situation. So yes, we should be encouraging men to be able to handle that situation. We're not speaking in a monolith, we're speaking in a generality. We understand that Game of Thrones lady does exist out there. There's probably some big old Russian woman who's 7 foot tall and she married a hobbit because that just is what she's into, and she's trained with firearms and she's trained with swords and she's an absolute killer and her husband's not. That probably exists in the far reaches of Russia somewhere. I understand. But generally speaking, the societal burden falls upon men, and you see this with the death rate in war. This is played out in material reality. We can try and sort of
war we can try such a small minority of men.
Because it's the most pertinent example of what we're talking about. It's the fact that men actually do shoulder that burden, and they always have throughout history. So you can try.
Hold on. Let Jake finish,
I would appreciate that.
and then you can respond.
He's doing his little show.
We do need to land the plane.
Soypill, you have prattled so many times throughout this debate where we've just let you go on for minutes and minutes, and you've switched from topic to topic to topic.
You wouldn't have to keep replying to it. You could actually
Soy, relax. So yeah, what we're saying here is that it's actually just rather simple. What we're talking about is borne out in material reality. We see this every single day because there are wars happening around the world where men are dying, and it is men who are being conscripted. We see this throughout history. There has never been an entire army of women. Men have always fought the battles. We have always been burdened by this, and we understand that if our country was to go to war tomorrow,
It's not you.
you guys would probably also have to face conscription, just as they did in Vietnam. If there was a big war tomorrow, you guys would have your name in the ballot, and it wouldn't be women, it would be men. So men have to shoulder that as a collective, and this is borne out in reality. And we're not talking in monoliths.
So
we're
again,
speaking in generalities.
can I respond to this? Can I speak? Okay, so
Land.
look,
Yeah, go ahead.
would you say that being a Navy SEAL is like a male gender role?
Yes.
Why?
How many Navy SEAls are women?
As far as I know, 0. There might
Exactly.
be like some
Okay,
small
so there you
exception. I don't
go,
think a single
soy
one-
pill.
So yeah. When 7 times 10 to the -4% of men are Navy SEAls, this is somehow a gender role for the whole gender, or is it, hey, exclusively men can be this very specific subset of this special agency? But most men don't do this. Just like most men don't join the military, most men don't fight in wars. Men do fight in wars, and in some places they exclusively fight. But this idea that this is a male gender role is just ridiculous, because either you don't understand what I'm saying when I say gender role, or you have some conception that every male has to go join the military, which is not the case. Conscription exists, but they're not conscripting 170 million men. This is so stupid. Obviously this is not a male gender role. Most men don't fight. Most men aren't in the Navy SEAls. A male gender role is, hey, what does society expect a man to do? And it's not join the Navy SEAls.
Yeah, and let's talk about reality.
No,
for a
hold on
minute.
a second. Hold on a second. I have to respond to that. You could not have brought up a worse point. There are precisely 0 female Navy
you didn't
SEAls
listen to
out
a
there.
thing I just
And you
said,
know
did
why
you?
that is? Is because biologically they cannot pass the test. That is something that
And,
is
can you pass the
exclusive
test?
to males. It's
Can you
something
pass
that
the test,
is
Jake?
exclusive
I'd like
to
to
males.
turn it back to.
It doesn't
I'd
matter.
like to
It's just
turn
a
it back
Oh,
to
it doesn't. Oh, it's almost like you're not less of a man for not being able to be a Navy SEAL, and that calling that a gender role is a complete obfuscation of what a gender role is. And just because something is an exclusively male thing does not mean that it is a gender role. It means that only men can meet the criteria, because it's a merit-based society, and it's a merit-based.
It's hard to believe how
criteria
much
for
you
being
actually
physical.
contradict yourself in one statement. It's
Do you
ridiculous.
not understand? Okay,
No.
what do you think a gender role is?
No, I'd like to turn it
No,
to
please.
Wick. He
This
was
is like
waiting.
the crux of the debate. He clearly doesn't understand my
I'd like
definition.
to
Maybe
turn
that's
to
on
Wick,
me, but he thinks
Wick,
that a
did you
gender
have
role is something
something
that
to add?
2,000 people
I-
do. So what the fuck is he talking about?
Hold on. Go ahead, Wick. Add in, and then we can let Jake respond.
I understand, but let's talk about reality for a minute, right? Because I don't think your side is engaging with reality, and the reality that I see play out every day, right? When we talk about which has the burden to protect the home, I think that men have a duty to and responsibility to protect their family, but women also have a duty and responsibility to protect their family. And I think that if you're being invaded, right, if your home is under attack, then I think that the most successful households are the ones that work together, hand in hand, men and women working together to fight off the intruder, more than just a single man saying, women, go hide in the closet while I do my man stuff, because obviously 2 is better than 1 in this case. Look, when we talk about reality, we got to utilize all of our talents, all of our abilities, all of our individual traits to help the whole. And I think that, again, focusing on these gender roles and trying to strictly enforce them or heavily influence the society to push people into these roles, again, as I said at the beginning, stymies our ability to be productive. It makes us worse off. And we can see this in reality because the countries that have moved away from the more strict adherence to gender roles have outperformed by leaps and bounds the countries that have gone more strictly into the patriarchies and things like that. When you look at the Middle East, for example, as most of those countries, right, have gone in very strict adherence to gender roles, and they're doing far, far worse than the more Western egalitarian countries. So when we look at what works, let's deal with reality here, okay? What reality has told us over and over and again in the last 50 years is that the Western world is winning. Egalitarianism is winning. Your ideology or whatever it is that you preach is simply ineffective.
Look, Wick, I think that one thing that we can definitely ascertain from that is that what Cooley said before about you not being able to reproduce is becoming more and more evident. It's becoming more and more evident by the day. But this is actually very important. This is very important. You'll see.
Listen,
Wick,
because they know that they're wrong.
Wick,
they know that they're
pardon me, gentlemen. I'm going to eat up the screen now. If you don't play well with each other, then I just take my ball and go home. Okay, Jake, please finish. Cooley, I believe you had a thought to add in, and then we'll get back to you, Wick. Okay.
Cooley, you're jumping straight after this, but I was just going to say that, Wick, if you go salsa dancing and you put like a nice colorful shirt on, you and your girl out salsa dancing, and you get home, and then there's an intruder in the home, and if you say, okay, baby, let's share this role. All right, I want you to take. You see how lonely your seed becomes, okay? You see how lonely that seed of yours becomes, Wick, because women. Yes, you put the woman in the closet, my friend. You don't get the woman on the front lines. You put the woman in the closet. If there's a fight that breaks out in the street, she goes behind you. She should instinctively know to get away from the conflict as soon as possible and get far away.
I don't know
Have
why
you
you're
ever
dating
seen
all
those
these
videos?
bitch-made
I don't know if you guys have ever seen those videos where there's a fight happening in the middle of the street and the guy is having the fight and the chick tries to get involved in the fight and she's like grabbing him and then the guy gets knocked out because his chick was distracting him. That's you, Wick. That's you. Lonely seed, and you're going to end up KO.
Don't you watch these videos, Wick?
So Wick, I got a question for you, Wick. I got a question
Can
for
I
you, Wick.
respond to that before you ask?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
It's your
say
house.
If he
something
allows
good,
it,
Wick.
yes. If he allows it,
Okay, fair enough. Then I'll say this, right? This idea, right, that yes, if women help poorly, then it goes poorly. Absolutely. But I like women. What I'm attracted to is competence. Okay. I like women who challenge me. I like women who are able to help me be the best person I can be. And I know you guys are laughing at this.
No,
because
someone super chatted they'd smash you. So clearly they've been proven wrong. The super chat spoke with their money. So.
A mash, Wick? I don't know what a mash is.
I think
but
they
that's
meant
weird.
to write an S.
I'm
instead
sure
of
that
an
they
A.
did, but spelling like thinking like anything really is
Rejected by Wick.
not
He wants competent
exactly
spellers. Get the
in their
fuck out,
purview.
chatter.
But when it comes to exactly. If you're gonna actually insult me, make it funny at least. Make it interesting, right? And then I'll respect you. But this idea that like women have no place and should hide, right? Look, if they are bad at helping, then fair enough. But I want a woman who would help me defend my home.
You know
want a
what,
woman
Wick?
who would help me defend my family. Because if a woman doesn't care enough about their home to help defend it, then that's not a woman I want in my life.
You know, Wick,
Hell
I
yeah.
agree with you. That's one thing we have something in common here, chat. I want y'all to know, me and Wick got this in common. I think that he actually does want and also need women to challenge him and help push him to be more masculine and more of a man because that's what he lacks at. So, question for you real quick, in regards to both of you actually can answer this one. What duties does women have that men don't? Because Soy Pill, you listed a lot of duties that men have. You talk about, war and stuff like this and the duty of
That's not all
protection.
men,
And
so.
Yeah, of course, that's not all men.
It's not even a majority.
Can you point out a duty? Well, the thing is this. Men do have a duty to protect and to provide. If men didn't have that duty, we wouldn't live in America. That is true. America wouldn't be a first world country. It will be more like a third world country. We'll be taken over by another country because men wouldn't be in the military to protect us, right? So we do need men actually have to have that duty to protect. Just like in Ukraine, women are leaving, but the men, they have to stay there and they have to fight. This is what the government enforces men to do. So the government enforces men to adhere to certain masculine male duties. My question to you is, should the government enforce women to adhere to any womanly feminine duties?
So
Because they do enforce us. We got to sign up for selective service. Women don't.
Right.
I think women.
I think women
if I
should be
may-
conscripted, if that's what you're asking me.
Yeah, I think
put them
women
in
should
there.
sign up for the
In
selective
fact, put them on the
service.
front lines because I don't want to get shot. Put them in front of me.
Okay. So that's no.
I don't agree.
You're being
Hold on.
disingenuous. Let's be
I don't-
serious.
No, I'm
now.
being serious about the first part.
Go
I do
ahead,
think
Vic.
that women should be conscripted in the same way. I don't think it's fair that you should just say, hey, these people
Conscripted in what way? In the same
I think
duties
to
as the
go into
man?
the military and do
I
all
think
the
they
roles
should
that
all
they're
be-
currently
hold
doing
on,
in
do
the
you-
military, and which is a
conscripts-
vast amount of roles and doesn't have to be the front lines, which is not a very large part of men,
Men who
period,
are
but also not a very large part of the
conscripted
military.
Men who are
Uh,
conscripted
So
men in America.
Hold
at
on, I
least,
want to
men
give it
who
to
are-
Wick. He was trying.
Men who are conscripted generally don't serve on the front lines. You guys understand that, correct? Right? Generally, in most combats, right? At least in America, I can't speak for other countries, but I can't speak for America, right? Conscripts who are drafted up perform more backline roles, logistics generally, right? When it comes to should women sign up for the selective, have to be required to sign up for the selective service? Yes, I think they should. Do I think that women should be sent to the front lines? I think that if women wants to be on the front lines and can demonstrate a capacity to be at the front lines without lowering standards, then why not? However, I do think that in general, because men are stronger at average, that even if you keep the standards the same, more men will qualify for those standards than women. But I don't think that the government should be forcing women to have babies, if that's what you're asking.
What? Okay, so so what I'm saying is this. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying that the government enforces men to adhere to some duty. And, there's women that's the exception. Like you said, I'll give you that. But are there any other duties that the government should make women adhere to?
Well, I'll answer this. And like I said, I think that if it became such an obvious existential problem that within a generation or two, we wouldn't exist as a human species because people aren't having babies, I think it would be the time for the government to step in and say, hey, woman, you have to have more babies. In the same way, I'm not really for conscription unless it is a existential and immediate threat. So in Ukraine right now, I would say that's an existential immediate threat. Their country is going to be taken over. I'd say World War II would qualify for that. I'd say Vietnam isn't, right? We're shipping all our people over to a place that they don't need to be to enforce our will because of some Cold War agenda. And I don't think you should conscript people for that. So yeah, in an existential scenario, you should draw on these biological imperatives that humans have and say, look, the government needs to step in and do something here, because if we don't, we'll all die. But that's a very specific scenario. And again, we're talking about normal day-to-day life. What should men do? What should women do? This is so far beyond the pale of what actually happens and what we should be encouraging. That yeah, in these specific scenarios, you can get me to say we should tell them to do their biological functions, but this is just not what's currently happening in a vast majority of places.
So you think that in Japan and South Korea, they should do that?
It depends on how bad it gets and what the projections are, but I have to look into exactly.
Let me tell you. So the curve, when you look at population growth over the last sort of 100 years or so, there was an exponential curve upwards for a little while. Yep. But then now it goes exactly the same on the way down. So then you've got places like Japan and South Korea that are about 1.2 birth rates. And this is absolutely an existential crisis for the Japanese people and the South Korean people, right? And America is on the same trajectory, because you keep going down, and in a generation or two, maybe one generation, you guys are going to be in the same place there where it becomes an existential crisis. So you're saying that don't worry about it until the shit really hits the fan. The shit is inevitably going to hit the fan unless you do something about it.
No,
but don't worry about it until the shit's all over the wall.
Anthropological that show when it would become a problem.
Got it. So you shouldn't be proactive?
No, this is exactly what I'm saying. Look, if you can show the projections, look, if you don't do this by this time, we're going to have a problem, then yeah, I think the government needs to step in. Now, I would consider that we're not currently there. And even in places where we are worried about this, like I said, with Georgia, Hungary, or all these places where they're trying to promote traditional roles, it's just not working, right? I think you'd have to be really, really extreme with it then at a certain point and say, hey, look, we're just forcing women to give birth. It would have to become some Handmaid's Tale-esque thing, because the degree to which we're incentivizing it in these other places is not working. By the way, I didn't realize you were Australian, Jake, but now I'm even more insulted by the fact you keep saying we and having to go to the military. Because
wait, are neither of you American?
You were fucking in Australia, buddy.
Wait. So just quickly, what were the last few wars that Australia fought in? Can you tell me?
I don't think there's any.
You don't know. You don't know. So you don't know that Australia fights in every single war that America fights in. Good one. Right? Good one. Australia fights in every single war. The Vietnam War, the Australians got conscripted. The Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, the Australians are always fighting the exact same wars as America. So maybe educate yourself. If you're going to make claims like that, maybe make sure you have some sort of rudimentary education.
I'm just saying you shouldn't lump yourself in. I'm not pretending to be in the military.
Just some rudimentary education.
It's my male gender role, and you fucking sit inside and podcast all day like a little bitch. But I do that too, so I'm not trying to pretend I'm better than you.
Ooh, yeah, so Soy Pill, it's funny that you say that, when I asked you that question, you went on this, long-winded answer, but you essentially said that, only if it gets to an extreme where we actually need to enforce women to adhere to some duty and men to adhere to their duties and stuff like that, then we need to do it. So you would wait to pretty much, I'm saying that you're looking at things from a reactional standpoint.
Yes.
What me and Jake are saying here is we're looking at it from a proactive standpoint. And since influence is a very powerful force, if you influence the masses, right, to do these things, it wouldn't have to come
Right.
where you
So-
need to be proactive and the world turns into Handmaid's
If I may-
Tale.
And wait, no, Wick, let me
That's
really
just
quickly
all
respond,
it's
because the problem is, again, you have to show me that somehow by enforcing these gender roles, we're going to now have replacement rates. But again, if you go look at any of these studies, this is not borne out in the data. This is not promoting these things does not get people to have more babies. This is a problem widespread across the world. So yeah, sure, I think it would be better if we could just say, hey, socially, we should probably have some sort of, expectation of some woman to do this, because if they did, then we wouldn't get to this existential thing. But it's not happening that way, and this isn't going to stop it from happening.
You know
But
why?
also,
There is an
but
example.
feminism
Let
is
me just
promoting the
really
opposite.
quickly give you an example. If you look at Romania in the 1960s, they wanted to address their birth rate. So what they did was they took away abortion and contraception. It went from 1.9 to 3.7 in a few years. So yeah, it has happened.
Okay, well, if that were to be borne out, I don't know if that's what's happening in Hungary or Georgia, where they're trying these very, very aggressive things. It's really just not working in the same way. And I think we live in a different time than the 1960s. I don't think that's necessarily going to work. But if that's what needs to happen, if it's an existential crisis, I understand. And that's why I'm saying, yeah, I prefer the people to have choices and be able to make their own choices until it gets to a point where the choice between, hey, do I want people to have freedom or will we cease to exist as a species comes up? And then I say, yeah, I guess in that trolley problem, I will throw away choice because otherwise we will all die and choice won't matter.
But
that's when it
Soy
matters.
Pill, the thing is,
hold on. I
Okay,
did
go
want to
ahead.
give Wick, and then
Yeah,
back to you,
there are-
David. Thank you.
All right, cool.
There are examples of governments in the modern day trying to incentivize their population to have more kids, right? And I think that there was a European, man, I forget if it was the Netherlands or Sweden. So forgive me if I get the exact name of the country wrong here, but they're, for example, saying, hey, if you are a woman and you have so many kids, you don't have to pay taxes for the rest of your life.
Hungary.
And I think these are perfectly thank you. I think these are perfectly fine incentives to make. I think there are good incentives and there are bad incentives. There are good ways to promote things and there are bad ways to promote things. And I think that what Hungary is doing with the tax breaks and things like that are very good incentives. And I think that, like, when we talk about these existential crises, I'll just ask you, do you think that the Japan, because you've mentioned that a few times, Jake, do you think that they are in a state where you think that the government should force women to have kids?
No, I don't think that there should be any force, but I think that there should be incentive and there should be government propaganda campaigns that incentivize women to have children. So what they're doing
What
in
if that
Hungary,
doesn't
with
work?
the
That
things-
doesn't
things-
work.
So
Yeah,
if
what
you
if that
just let
didn't
me
work?
speak for more
If
than
that
7
doesn't work.
seconds, then
Yeah,
I'll
but
be
your
able
point
to.
doesn't
Then I'll be
matter.
able
What
to
if it doesn't
actually
work?
extrapolate on the point that I'm making. I'll be able to build it out, right? So if you look at what they're doing in Hungary at the moment, what they did was they gave tax incentives to women to have X amount of babies, right? And then eventually, if they have 4 children or more, then they won't pay income tax for the rest of their life. That managed to flatline the birth rate for a little while, but it didn't actually manage to raise the curve. So in Japan and South Korea, what they're now doing is they're getting in immigrants from all around the world, and they're a very culturally homogenous country, so they don't want to be doing that. But what they need to be doing is to be having government propaganda campaigns and also incentivizing like family structures, etc.
What if that
Families
doesn't
to look
work?
after the kids.
Yeah,
there needs to be some sort of like a national campaign.
Wait, can you give a
towards
fourth
having
example
children.
that's like the exact same thing and then answer our question?
I'd
Yeah,
like
well,
to turn it
again-
to David because it was his turn. If you wanted to add on to that.
I mean, the question that I was going to ask was, because the thing is, I keep moving the goalpost so much. So let me just get it back on, I think the argument and the question that, and also the contradiction that you don't realize. But anyways, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
So Soy Pill, again, you said that you are okay. You would not stop the promotion of feminism. You would not stop the promotion of feminism.
What do you
But
mean
you
by
would-
feminism? Hey, if you can't define it, I can't help you there because I don't know what you're asking me to say. Whether or not I want to promote it. And that everyone should be equal in every metric, or that we should genuinely treat people the same.
Both.
Okay, no, I think we should not promote that. I don't think that you should force egalitarianism. I don't think you can force opportunity.
No, not force. I said promote.
I don't think we should promote the idea that everyone needs to have the exact same outcomes. No.
No, not outcomes. Well, okay,
that's
so
what I
not
said.
outcomes.
So if
So
I'm
not
saying we
outcomes.
should promote that we should treat everyone to some degree of respect equally, then yeah, I think I'll support that.
No, like men and women are equal. Pretty much, women, you
what
can go
metric?
out there and do everything that a man can do.
Again, that's an outcome, right? I don't think there should be 50-50 gender in every job. I don't think that women and men have to have the exact same amount of gold medals at the top tier of Olympics, right? This is not something I would promote if that's what you're saying feminism is.
Okay, so you wouldn't promote feminism at all then?
If that's what you think feminism is, then I
So
don't
what do you
endorse
think
that.
feminism is?
Again, I'm not a feminist, so I'm not going to speak
I
on the
feel like
whether or not
we
I've
went-
read all the literature, but I'm just saying I think that
We
women should have
already
more
did
agency and
the
choice. And yeah, we're walking in circles. But I
we
do
already
really
did
want
that.
Jake to answer the question of like, again, what do you do if all this stuff you're promoting and saying that Japan and Hungary need to do doesn't work?
Yeah, you get
Would
rid of
you
abortion.
like,
get
because
rid of
I'll bite the bullet. I'll
contraception.
say that the government should intervene when it becomes so dire that like they will literally not exist.
Sure.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah,
or
you
think
get
they
rid of
shouldn't?
abortion and you get rid of contraception.
And what if that doesn't work? What if they don't have enough babies for
But, I
replacement?
mean, you could just respond that to every single thing that I say, but we have seen
No, I'm just
areas
saying,
in
what
the
would you
world where
do?
these things have worked. We've seen it work in Hungary. We saw it work in Romania in the 1960s, and these things are incentives for people to have less to have more
Okay,
children,
so-
and they're definitely incentives for people to not have casual sex outside of relationships more. You can also have cultural stigma.
I'm not disagreeing with any
you can
of
have
this.
cultural stigma that stigmatizes people having sex outside of wedlock, etc. There are many different things that you can do, and it will be better than what they have for sure.
Cool. All right, cool. So what would you do if that didn't work? I'm going to keep asking because apparently you can't engage with this hypothetical.
I am engaging with the hypothetical, and I've given you all of
Okay,
the
what would
different
you do?
things that you can do. So then
What would you do?
This is just
when none of that worked, what would you do?
You've just got this is
No,
just an
it's the
infinite
point.
regress.
The point is, if government force is the only way to do it, would you accept it? Would you say that the government should force it because otherwise we won't exist?
What do you mean? Say that again.
If government force was the only way to perpetuate the human species, do you think the government should force people to enlist to defend our country against aliens? Do you think they should enlist women to have babies because otherwise they won't have enough to replace in the next generation? Do you think that the government should do that?
Well, there's a certain level of force that the government can actually do, and in terms of conscription, I think that is a duty that does fall on men collectively. But then also with women, you can't actually inseminate them forcefully because then that would be a certain.
I promise
a certain
you,
word,
people
right?
found a way for the entirety of humanity.
But yeah, for the entirety of humanity, people have had kids, and generally it's in times when there was more strong traditional roles and when there was stronger family structures, etc. So what we could do is, like I said 50 times, is all of these different government incentives and societal structures that actually incentivize family.
I'm just trying to find out if you would be okay with government force to make this
antithesis.
happen if those didn't work.
Right now we have the total antithesis of that. And the antithesis of that is that we promote abortion. We promote abortion as a means of contraception. We have to completely destroy the family. Divorce rate is higher than ever. Kids are growing up in single parent
no,
homes.
it's not.
People divorce
That's
rate.
not true.
There might have been a time
Divorce
in history
rates
when it
are
was
down.
Down from when?
Divorce rates are down from the early 2000s.
Down from last year?
Absolutely.
Okay, but if you look
No,
at it
down
from
for the early 2000s.
you look at it from the 1950s, 1940s, when America had a stronger family structure, it's up.
But
Divorce rates are
abortion's
up from
become
then.
more common.
So
since
let me
then,
just
so I don't
finish off the
understand how
point.
this works.
So kids are raised in single mother households. People are pair bonding less. People are getting married later. Women are not having children until they're in their 30s. Women are going into higher education, into the workforce more, and all of these things are being incentivized. So you can keep on asking questions about, well, what if that doesn't work? What if that doesn't work? But I've just laid out the entire map for you. So take it and do what you will with it.
I'm just curious about what you would do in a hypothetical existential
I got to
situation.
engage with this because you said something that was just simply not true, right? When we talk about like the divorce rates, we have seen the divorce rates in the West, in America specifically, drop from about 11.1 to about a little over 7, I believe. The last time they checked was the last time I could find at least was like 2022, 2021, right? And so obviously, in our current society, we have found a way, whatever that might be, in order to reduce divorce rates. We do not need to promote traditional gender roles, because I doubt you guys would say we've been promoting traditional gender roles for the last 20 years in America, right? We do not need to do that to reverse to get rid of divorce rates. And this is kind of the key central point that I think you guys just have failed.
So you're going
to
to pick
address.
up one thing that I said, and you're going to say that there was a slight decrease in a certain
my
time.
point without you interrupting, because you know that this is not making you look good, right? This idea, right, that we have to, that we need to enforce or promote or influence, whatever word you want to use here, these strict traditional gender roles is just not true. It's not borne out by the data. There are other ways to achieve the goals that I think that we could even agree. I'll toss you this bone. I do think that there are things that we should do to society to make men safer, to make men more productive, to give them more purpose. But I think that we can do that outside of the traditional gender roles. And again, with the divorce rate specifically, this is some data that we actually have that we can show that we did not need to enforce gender roles in order to reduce the divorce rate.
Sure, Wick. Let me just grant this to you, okay? Sure, I'm going to grant you that there has been a slight uptick in people not getting divorced over a period of time in the last 20 years. Now, do you think that the divorce rates have gone up or down since 1950? Tell me that.
I think that they've gone down since the 1700s too, or up, I should say.
So do you
Divorce
think
rates have
people are
gone
getting
up
divorced
to the
more
1800s too.
now? If you
You
could just
said- you
engage
said
in good
yes.
faith, do you think that people are
I
getting
just
divorced
said
more
yes.
now
Yes.
or more in the
Yes.
1950s?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
You said yes.
Do you think that people are getting married later now, or do you think they're getting married later in the 1950s?
They're getting married later now.
They're
because
getting married
living
later now.
longer.
Do you think that people are having less kids
Wait, give
now, or do you
another
think? hold on a
irrelevant
s-
example, please.
Okay,
Two more.
Soy Pill, I'm actually not talking to you, but I know that you have impulse
You're not
control
talking to
issues. But
anyone
anyways,
because we all
Wick
understand
TV,
this. You're talking to no
Gentlemen,
one.
Wick TV, I was speaking to
Gentlemen.
him. So, Wick TV, do you think that women are having less children now or more children now?
They're having less children.
Fantastic. Now, do you think that the birth rates are going down or they're going up right now?
In the West, they're going down.
Okay, so Wick, there is the map for you. Now you can try and nitpick one little part of it and say, well, there's
You
been a
have to
turnaround in divorce
connect
rates.
that
Good, I'll just grant it for you.
traditional
But I've got
general.
20 things and you've got nothing.
No
you've
facts,
not connected a single one
libtard.
of these things to traditional gender roles. This is the failure of your argument. You have made all these facts, right? And I'll cede them to you that all these things are
Good
true.
boy.
However, you're positing
Ooh.
that these are because of the traditional gender roles when there are a host of other factors, some of which you mentioned and ceded to earlier, like in Japan with urbanization and things like that. I think the technology has been a huge factor, contraception, etc., all these things. So to point and to tie these things specifically to gender roles, this is what you have failed to do in your argument.
Okay,
You
if it's
understand
not
that, right?
tied to gender roles, then what is it tied to?
There are a host of possible variables.
Again,
that
if
we
you
can
can
go through.
prove
So,
some
for
sort of
example,
link with
depends on the-
something, you'd win a fucking Nobel
Yeah.
Prize. Like,
Cool, we got a
don't
link
have any
already in my
studied
opening,
those
like I
things at
said.
all.
Please let me
So
finish. Right? It
Yeah,
really
yeah,
depends
Wick,
on
you
the data
spoke
point you're
enough. You
looking
spoke
for.
enough, and you're not really saying too much.
Hold on.
Okay, can I
Wick
bring this back?
answer
I have a really
wanted to-
important question.
Yeah. So again, it really depends on the specific data point that you're looking at that we can explain these things. Like when you look at the rates of divorce, right? Are
Okay,
they
so we have a
higher
solution
now
and
than
you
they were in
don't.
the 1950s?
That's pretty much what you're
Yes,
saying.
because there are much less restrictions on it and things like that. This has nothing to do with gender.
Well, let me ask a
Soy,
question.
go
Okay,
ahead.
cool. Real quick,
Because,
real
like,
quick. So
okay,
if
Hold
we
on.
don't,
So
okay,
I
if we
wanted to
don't,
add in.
I
So I
really
wanted to add
need
in
to
and
ask
then
this
back to
question
you,
because,
David.
Jake, you were talking about like, oh, this is a absurd hypothetical, like getting the government to force people to do this. But the reason I ask is because feminism and this idea of promoting choice and women's rights and sexual promiscuity and all this stuff rose out of the culture that you guys are promoting, right? These traditional masculine roles of the 40s, 50s, 60s, 30s. Feminism came out and was appealing to women and even men at that time, in spite of the fact that you would argue that those societies were better or closer to what you want society to be like. So how then are you going to enforce these things when you have these incentive structures that in the past inevitably lead to feminism rising up and trying to promote these ideas that you think suck? It's going to happen again unless you have some way, unless you're okay with the government forcing them to do a certain thing. No?
well, feminism rose up because of a lot of propaganda. Women, if you look back
Why
in
was
the
it so
in the
appealing?
early 40s and 50s, women actually would vote against it. They didn't want to be in a workforce. So what you're saying is it doesn't make sense. It's not rooted into reality
What
of what
happened after
women
that?
actually want. What I'm saying is propaganda. So let's get to the root of everything, because manipulation happens when you focus on the effects instead of getting to the root of things. And Sarah, I know you tried to move off, and y'all tried to move off off of influence, but we're not moving off. We're going right back, because that is the source of everything. Influence creates thinking. Thinking creates behavior. If you can defeat that argument, God dang, you win the debate. So since influence creates thinking, how you think and the actions that you are going to take, should we this debate, I keep moving the goalposts. This debate is literally about, should traditional roles have a place in modern society? It should have a place in modern society. And the reasons why it isn't, the reasons why people are moving away from gender roles is because of propaganda like feminism, which Soy Pill, you keep going up. You are a complete male feminist. You never really answer the question. You kind of like move away from answering the question, and I let it go. But I'm like,
I promise you,
no, that's not happening anymore. It's not happening anymore. So,
well, listen, if you're right, if influence is so important, Cooley,
first and
then
foremost,
your side has been absolutely dog shit at it for decades. So, like, why should I fucking side with you guys? Like, feminism seems to be winning right now.
Gentlemen.
Stop
He
it.
has to interrupt. He's terrified of the arguments.
He got it. He's
David,
terrified.
go ahead and
terrified.
finish your thought, and then
Cooley.
Soy,
I'm
you are
very
welcome to
eager.
the
respond.
low tier tactic.
Low tier tactics. And the thing is, your arguments, you keep making arguments like well, should we physically enforce these things or not physically enforce these things? What I'm saying is very simple and true. You can't defeat it. We wouldn't have to.
Then why are we arguing about it?
Stop it. We wouldn't have to physically enforce anything, and the world turn into handmaid's tale, or something else, if we mentally enforce it with influence. But I'm telling you right now, there's an opposite influence that is influencing people not to adhere to gender roles. This is why you're seeing the decline in birth rates. This is why you're seeing the abortion rate. This is why you're seeing all of these negative effects, because of the propaganda that's pushed away from gender roles. We are arguing for gender roles. You get what I'm saying? So, guess what? Soy pill, you actually agreed to many of the things that we argued for, which you already know. Men are naturally stronger than women in a lot of things. You know these biological truths, but for some reason you want to speak the opposite of the biological truths.
I haven't spoken the opposite of any biological truth. I think it's very clear what I'm saying is that
you have.
Which biological truth have I spoken the opposite of?
One, you said that, well, I'm okay with women going into the biological truth that you spoke against. You said that, well, I'm neutral on, I think that, choice is everything. Well, what would you want to influence then? Because something has to influence someone from choosing something, but you're totally against gender roles.
I'm not.
That's
oh
what
my
I'm saying.
God! You have. Apparently, you're not active listening, as you so have proposed throughout this entire debate. I never said I'm against the good things that come from gender roles. I'm just saying we don't have to strictly promote this for male and female. And I'll keep repeating that until you understand it. I'm not saying, we have to do this, we have to do that. I'm saying that people having choices is better, and no, we don't have to say that men must do this, and if they don't, then somehow they're bad men. And I'm gonna keep repeating that. I don't know why you can't understand this. And I'm not saying that clearly men aren't stronger. I'm not saying that men aren't better at things that require strength. I'm just saying that not all men are going to be doing these things, and therefore we don't have to say you're not a real man if you don't do these things. So I don't understand what's so difficult.
Okay, so you want to restrict speech?
Did I say that?
Because that's what's going to happen. You said that
I can watch the words.
That's what's going to happen.
A few wavelengths over to you, and you
great. No. That's what's going to happen. Awesome. Well, I don't think people should say to people, well, you if you don't adhere to these gender roles, that you're a loser or something like that. That's what's going to happen.
Oh, it is? Well, then what are you worried? Why are you debating? If everything is such a biological imperative, if somehow feminism is going to lose because of the natural hierarchy of man and woman, why are you even here? You can just sit back in your chair. You don't have to go fight in the military. You can just twiddle your thumbs and it'll all work out for you. So what are you worried about?
To move over to our closing statements, and then we can read and respond to some of the super chats. And I'm seeing the chat. There's a lot of people already wanting to get in on open panel. So I don't want to hold them off any longer. Okay, I believe, Wick, would you like to begin with your closing statement?
Certainly. So I think that we've made it pretty clear in this debate that while I have nothing against gender roles, and I think that I wouldn't want to abolish stay-at-home moms or anything like that. I think that we have amply demonstrated that egalitarianism is superior as a form of ideology and as something to promote. When we talk about dealing with reality, one of the points that neither of my interlocutors here have been able to address is the fact that every single Western country who has gone further towards egalitarianism has outperformed by almost every metric the countries who have not and who have stayed in the more patriarchal, traditional kind of wavelengths. I think that when it comes down to it, it really is a freedom of choice, right? I think that if a man wants to stay at home and watch his children while his wife earns the money, that's okay. I think if a woman wants to stay at home and watch her kids while her man goes out and earns bread, that's also okay. I think that I should not be able to choose for them what they do. And the advice I would give to them, right? What sort of lifestyle should I live? The one that makes you feel most satisfied, the one that you want to do. Now, I think that naturally, without any coercion, without any force, without any pressure, this will naturally kind of lead to more men in certain roles and more women in certain roles, and that's perfectly fine. But we don't need to be promoting right? Or stymieing people going into these gender roles. If they are actually natural things, it will happen without our input. And I think that's okay. I'm Wick TV. If you like what I say or you hate what I say, you can find me on Wick TV on all platforms. Check me out. Thanks for having me. I do appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Wick. Soy to you.
Yeah, I don't think my opponents know what I'm even against because they don't know what a gender role is. I don't think men shouldn't fight in the military. I don't think we need to have a 50-50 military. I think that men and women should have the choice to be in whatever role they want. Most men don't fight in the military, so it is not a male gender role. It's just an exclusively male field in certain cases and a majority male field in others. And despite my jokes, I don't think that Jake should be shamed for not being in the military, maybe for being Australian. Since the introduction of more choice, things have been astronomically better than every decade these guys keep referencing: spending power, disposable income, quality of life, reduction of poverty, etc. It seems to be working out pretty damn well. Yeah, there are problems with current society, and yeah, we might need to address them, maybe in an existential way, but I just want to promote good behaviors. I think we don't need to do those in a gendered way. But according to them, it's the natural hierarchy of things, so I think we can all just sit back and let things play out the way they need to play out. I'm the Soy Pill. I make video essays on politics, Type 1 and the deep state, and I thought that I would be the largest person on this panel and thus the most correct, although I see Cooley, you'd also work out, and Jake, maybe you do too. You're hiding your arms, so all my working out was for nothing, but thank you for joining. I had a good time.
Thank you, Soy. Jake, to you.
Yeah, I thought that our opponents' arguments tonight were quite frankly embarrassing. They actually never really gave a definition of feminism and what they really think that feminism is, which is interesting. And they were just intentionally vague the entire time, which is a very low tier sort of tactic. And they were constantly shifting the goalposts and constantly using all of these different tactics that are just quite frankly low tier. They even admitted that women are weaker and less effective than men, which I found really interesting because that actually just plays into our point that women, yes, they're less effective and they're weaker than men, and that's why we need men to have certain societal duties as a collective. Now, we never said that all men have to do this. We said that this is a collective duty, and we made that very clear. But they kept on going back to that because they actually couldn't contend with the arguments. So I actually really enjoyed this. I found that, like I said, the arguments from the other side were just quite frankly embarrassing, and it was an easy W for me and Cooley. Been coming for a minute, but yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jake. David, to you.
You know what? Let's get rid of gender roles. Put me in a room with these two guys, and their only option is to fight me back 2-on-1 or call the police. But guess what? There's no gender roles, so they're gonna get some women police that show up. Guess what? Y'all both dying, and I'm killing a woman police too. That's what's gonna happen if you abolish gender roles. You get what I'm saying? That's what's gonna happen.
I'd kneel on your neck so hard they'd be painting murals of you in New York City. I'm just telling you. I'd kneel on your neck so hard they'd be painting murals of you in New York City. Just saying.
How are they cutting me off? You're that triggered. You're that feminine.
I will say it is closing statements. It's closing statements, gentlemen. David, go ahead.
Appreciate you, Sarah.
Be mindful of the death threats, David.
It's saying you're going to kneel on a black man's neck. Nice one, Wick.
Yeah, but you know what? I would say these guys were very disingenuous with the things like they know these biological truths. They were very vague, like Jake said. They never really gave a definition towards about feminism. When it came to influence and stuff like that, they really didn't want to battle with that, really didn't answer questions on that. It was like, let me just try to avoid this topic. They try to stick with topics that they're comfortable with, like moving the goalposts and always speaking about effects. Me and Jake was always continuously trying to will it back in to get to the cause of things, which is biology. But other than that, man, this podcast was cool. I appreciate all of you for having me. Shout out to Soy Pill and Wick TV. At the end of the day, my name is Cooley with No Fugazi Podcast. Give me a follow. Subscribe.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Just a kind reminder to our members, I'm going to drop that link shortly to the StreamYard link to a members only post, and you'll be able to see that there. You'll be first in line, and then anybody else behind that, I will drop it publicly here shortly. Okay. We're going to get through some super chats. Are all of the gentlemen, are you all staying for open panel?
I got to get out of here.
Well, like, man.
Okay.
Wow.
I can stay for a little bit. I got about
show face. Come on, man.
Got about maybe like Half hour, Remy.
I think I've already had my way with these two gentlemen. Already beaten down on them hard enough, and I want to spare them any more trauma.
Like,
So
both of you want to be in a room
I've got to
alone
go
with
and
us.
eat
It's
my
kinda
breakfast.
not very
Got to
manly
go
of
and eat my protein, and I've had enough soy today. If I'm honest.
Can you flex for us? I want to see how big your arms are.
Why would I do that? Why would I be such a homosexual and flex?
He's pretty
Honestly, wearing a string
You fit the
singlet
gender
like
roles better
yourself.
than me. Show me how big your arms are, buddy. Let's see. Come on.
Fuck it.
Soy
All right,
Pill,
gentlemen.
unfortunately, unlike you, I'm not
DJ
bleeding,
Nuts in
Bleeding
with
in
the
anemia, you
five
weak little
bleeding
bitch.
insecurity.
You run and eat your
has
protein and then don't do
Western
anything with it in bed,
culture
buddy.
had better relations between the sexes as they've androgenized men and women's role in society? Anybody's welcome to respond. If nobody responds, I'll just keep moving on.
What does better relations? I need to know more. Like, what does better relations mean in this context?
I don't know.
I don't know either, so it's hard to answer the question.
I think if you're talking about the idea that like men do have a loneliness epidemic, I don't think that's because men have been more feminized. I think that's largely due to the fact that men had a role that allowed them to get women, which was making money. And now that's not enough anymore because women make money too and they want a little more. Men don't have emotional regulation. They don't really know how to talk to women as a whole because people don't teach them how. And I actually do agree with Cooley that, fathers should have a better role in, emotionalizing and conditioning men to understand how to talk to these people. But I don't think it's exclusive to fathers. And that's only a gender role insofar as we have to counteract the gender roles that have existed, since then, and you can do that with everyone, mothers, fathers, whatever.
So you think a mother can raise her
I think
son
a mom
into a
would
man?
help me get more bitches than a man. Yeah.
No, that's not what I said. I said, do you think a mother can raise her son into a man?
Raise her into a man? I think definitionally, yeah. If you're saying, can she teach him to be more masculine than a father could? That depends on who the mom is and who the father is.
That's what I'm saying.
It depends on the
more
case.
masculine.
I think in general, a man would probably know how to teach masculine things better if they were practicing more masculine things. Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right. Sam Slenderman with the big five says, Wick, what are the comparative odds where a man has to disarm a woman versus a woman disarming a man, and who can take more bullets before falling?
Sure. If you're talking about a close combat fight where they just round a corner and on each other, right? I think that a man's going to win that in almost every case. Who can take more bullets before falling? Like, depending on the caliber, you're not taking more than one, right? It depends.
I'll
right?
add,
like,
also women are biologically better
down,
at target sport shooting. If you didn't know that, women actually have a better and more steady hand thanks to their, I don't know, estrogen levels,
and marksmanship in the Olympics,
being less emotional. I don't fucking know.
There's some studies that suggest that, but it's
Jake. Did I mog you into staying? You're still here.
Yeah, I'm going to stay for a little while. I'm going to stay for a little while.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, there's some interesting things coming up on this panel, so I'll stay for a little while.
And to the members, by the way, the link is pinned on a members only post. You can see that. Hop backstage. You've got about 2 more minutes before I drop it publicly. Rachel Wilson in with the big 20. I'm a certified firearms instructor. I've taught mostly women. At least 70% of them can't load a spring-loaded magazine or work the action on an automatic pistol or a bolt-action rifle. Cuck team is Delulu. Win Jake and Cooley.
I have 2 things for this. Sounds like
opinion on shooting.
Yeah, first of all, it sounds like she's a dog shit instructor. Second of all, Rachel Wilson believes that women shouldn't be able to vote. So I don't care what the fuck she says. She's a dumb, measly woman. Get out of here, Rachel.
True, and she's a liar.
Wow, you guys are tough behind her back, eh?
Oh, she can come on anytime.
Don't you worry, fellas. Don't you worry, fellas. Don't you worry, fellas. You're about to hear it. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry, guys.
Come get your husband to make your fucking
argument.
Stick
around.
He's one of the weakest
fellas.
bitches that I've ever had.
Stick around, fellas.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
it's ironic that these 2 soy boys are speaking to a woman like that. Come on, man. Are you supposed to be
I called you a little baby bitch too. I'm egalitarian.
That's why you're a reproductive dead end. So
hey, I'll impregnate your wife too. Don't worry about it.
Rachel, very nice lady. I don't appreciate we calling her names. Raw Dog with the big 20. You served in the chair force. I can tell you from the real combat sides, women were not able to do what we did overseas on the ground. I saw it firsthand and had to clean up the messes. That's the polite version. And then Cool Barracuda says Moss Wick, MOS Wick, former Army 68W PSYOP, saying women did good in range qualifications, disingenuous, or you were just buns. Lower standard for BS like Ranger School. They can't pass SOF requirements. Woman and war equals instant L. And you're welcome
Well,
to
my
respond
MOS, I was a
later.
cryptolinguist. My target language was Mandarin Chinese, at least for the first half. But full disclosure, I'm not very good at Mandarin Chinese, so I became a crew chief. I worked on the KC-135 airframe.
Well, could a sexist man do this? Go on, Wick. Speak a little Chinese for him.
可以说中文有一点。Yeah.
Robert Tamita with the Big 10 to say thank you for the stream, Sarah. And thank you, Robert Tamita. Always polite. I'm trying to find them as quickly as I can here. Millennial Mike with the Big 20. That absolute stud from the fake country of Australia is bodying those two soy boys. Win Rattlesnake. Super chat, your gracious host who is doing the Lord's work tonight. We need more traditionally strong masculine men. And then let's see,
Australia is
Crimson King with the Big 10. Masculinity has not changed. Soy boy just spewed a bunch of word salad.
Cool. I challenge that person to come in and give me a consistent definition of masculinity throughout the thousands of years that humans have existed.
All right. And a question, Sam said, Wick, would you take your own advice, man up and just accept it if society moved back to Christianity, woman at home, and laws against abortion?
So would I take my own advice? I'm not sure what he's referring to there, but if people want to be Christian, they're more than happy to. I'm not an anti-Christian guy. I think that we lost a lot when we moved away from religion, actually. But one of the problems I see in today's society is that these so-called Christians, right, have basically killed Christianity, have skinned it, and are wearing it like a suit. They can't explain, they don't follow the teachings of Christ, right? They don't follow the words of the Lord and instead follow podcasters and influencers, these graven images, these false idols, these wolves in sheep clothing. So I would love a return to actual Christianity. But what we have today is just this false kind of malnourished, just this fake version that's out there. And
Christianity speaks specifically about gender roles in many of the passages, so that's a contradiction to your entire worldview. If you want to move back to
hold on, I've said, maybe you guys don't understand. Maybe I'm not using English. I slip into Chinese, but the whole point throughout this panel is that I don't have a problem with gender roles. I have a problem with strict enforcement of traditional gender roles that you all don't seem to understand what they are because you put up people like Andrew Tate as an example of masculinity. And I have a real big problem with that.
The Bible, Christianity speaks about this.
I don't think
in
you understand
many passages specifically. What are you talking about?
Wait, I don't know. How do you, is that how you like inform your gender roles, Cooley? Like you're like, because the Bible said so?
No, I'm rebutting him. He's saying that, well, I would move towards Christianity,
which is patriarchal.
I'm letting him know that, well, Christianity is for the promotion of gender roles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you know enough about Christianity to speak on it, frankly.
Ah, man.
Get him.
All right.
Get him is like, you never read the Bible? I can tell you never read the Bible, or you read the Bible.
You know, I was a missionary for a few years.
With like your feminist glasses on. So you read it through a feminist lens where you really didn't get the message.
Got it.
All right. Airborne Animal with the Big 10 says, it is obvious that Soy Boy and White Van Wyck have not had to deal with real violence. If they had, they would not want their woman to be anywhere near it.
Yeah, sorry, I want my woman to be able to deal with physical confrontations, and you want them to go in the closet, that's where they're going to kiss girls, okay? Do you want your woman to, get lost to another woman? I don't think so. I think she should be out there beating the shit out of the guy while I kick his face in, all right? Like, just train your woman to fight. It's not that hard. Well, except for Rachel. She's not doing a great job.
Okay. Sorry, these are coming in. I'm doing 10 and up or questions of anything less. FB with the Big 10. Jake won the debate. Game over. Spyro with a Big 20. 2 points. Wick, who gets the lifeboat? Number 2, if you are in a scenario where you need women to be forced via government to have babies, congrats, gender roles. The soy boys lost.
Yeah, it'd be cool if like our opponents would engage with that point, but I do think it's funny that it's like, hey, if you're in a scenario where you need women to be forced via government to have babies, congrats, gender roles. It's like, yeah, that's kind of the whole point we were making, where it's like, yeah, if you're in an existential crisis that doesn't currently exist, maybe you need to step in and do something, but we're talking about modern day society and not like, hey, like everyone's about to die because aliens are coming and how do we force people to have babies? So also, by the way, that's not a Big 20, that's Canadian monopoly money.
True.
Fair.
Which is fair. Look, I'm not for oppressing people, but Canadians, I make an exception. Okay.
Oh, careful. We have a pretty, not large,
I know.
but
I have a lot of
extensive
Canadians that follow me too, and I don't know why. But
Yeah. Maybe they're just bored
Because
with
they're not
Canada.
natural leaders. Look at their debates. They were so boring and weak. They needed an American up there to
Fair
show
enough.
them how to govern a country. Maybe they should be the 51st state.
Rachel says with the big 20, Jake is correct. Russia also had to make abortion illegal and promote natalism in the 1930s because there were 3 abortions for every live birth, and they were on the verge of collapse. It fixed the problem.
Russia had a lot of problems in the 1930s. Okay, right. We're talking about a society that was struggling with revolution. And the growing pains of the USSR, basically. To point to a single factor for the verge of collapse that they were on is just kind of silly.
Yeah, I want to throw a bone to Rachel and say, well, first of all, like, why am I listening to you, dumb woman? But also, like, yeah, maybe if this is true, if we could bear out that, like, every time you do this abortion thing, if you ban abortion, that will, fix the problem that we're seeing in all these countries, then I would say, yeah, maybe that's the case. I doubt that it's that simple, and I would posit that she doesn't understand, and it's a lot more complicated than that, but that's just because she doesn't know what she's talking about and shouldn't have an opinion, so I can't really take her seriously. If Andrew comes in and repeats it, then maybe we can talk about it.
All right. Scurvy Derby Schmumman with the Big 10. Yo, Wick, divorce rates are down, but has the marriage rates stayed the same?
Got the data right here. The U.S. marriage rate in 2012 was 16.6 compared to 16.7 in 2022, according to the American Community Survey. During the same period, divorce rates dropped from 9.8 to 7.1. There you go.
All right. And last one for now, and then we'll open up the panel. Timbo himself with the Big 10 says, who would I follow as my leader? Jake, Cooley, Sarah. If the other ladies were an option, I'd run to the other side. Oh, my. All right.
I'm
fair.
strong and faster than him. I wouldn't let him get away.
All right. Are we ready to open up into open panel dumpster fire? The link
I got about 30 minutes, by the way, and then I got to.
Perfect. So what I'll do is if anybody has questions directly for you, I'll allow those to come through first. That way we can expedite and make your time worth something here. All right, here we go. All right, let me just express some rules here for everybody so we understand. I am Sarah. If you hear my voice, that means you should probably shut up. I will let you get through your talking points, ask your questions, so on and so forth. But if you start talking over each other, I start getting very irritated. All right, floor is open.
Yeah, I won't stay very long. I just had a question for each debater. Starting with Wick. Wick, you were saying during the debate that all these Western nations, why are they outperforming everybody who doesn't follow or follows a patriarchal society? Which of those Western nations, besides the United States, outperforming China, Wick?
Outperforming China? Do you think that China is a country which promotes traditional values?
Yes. And the traditional patriotism, yes. Yes, it is.
Think that China, you just don't understand. Like the PRC, for example, had mandatory abortions for most of its existence, right?
Yeah, so what? It's a patriarchal society is the point. You said if it's
so
patriarchal, you said if it's a patriarchal society, that all Western nations are outperforming all patriarchal societies. Can you tell me which Western nation's outperforming China, Wick?
So America for the first all.
Yeah, I said other than America, Wick.
Other
Can you
Don't
than
use
name
an
a
America.
single
example that
one?
proves them wrong, Wick.
Can
That's
you
mean.
name a single one besides
Other than
America
the
that's
ones that are true.
outperforming China?
I think the EU, right, is largely. Look, would you rather live in the EU or would
Answer
you
my
rather live in
question,
China?
Wick. Can you
I'm
name one?
answering your question by asking you one. Do you think
Asking
that,
me a question is the
rather-
opposite of answering
would
my
you rather-
question, Wick.
This will answer your question. I promise.
Okay, so you're not going to answer my question. All right. So I'll
Well,
ask this my
allow me
second
to
question. That
You
okay,
think-
answer it then,
would you
Wick.
rather
Which
live
one?
Would you rather live in China?
That's asking me a
Would you
question.
rather-
Answer my
rather live
question.
in
That's
EU?
asking a question. Answer my question, please.
I think that we can understand that most people would rather live in Western
Oh,
societies. Than
That's
they
not
would
what your
live-
claim was. You said they were outperforming
Yes, they
Wick.
are.
That's a
And
lie,
listen-
Wick. How are they outperforming them, Wick?
Well, we have a better standard of living. We have a better trajectory of.
What?
We do have a better standard
What?
of living in the
What-
West.
what
There's
you
a better
mean-
standard of living.
Wait,
The average
you mean with
person
like the
makes more in
massive
the West than does in China.
mental illness rates, the
Hold
huge
on.
divorce rates, all of these things? That's a better standard
Do you
of
not
living.
agree? What? Let me ask you this question: do you
Mhm.
think that the average
You
worker
said these
in the
countries are out.
European Union
You said China.
performs
You
better
said that they
than
are
the average worker in
outperforming.
China?
You said that these countries are outperforming
And
all
I'm
patriarchal
illustrating
societies.
How?
How?
Again, the average worker in the European Union and America and the West in general has a better standard of living, makes more money, is more wealthy, and is healthier than China.
Okay, and what about let's move into some other criteria.
Let's move
Would
on.
you
to-
say-
Just run the fuck away from
So
that.
Andrew, you're
point.
conceding that Wick was right
No,
there?
no,
You're
I'm
conceding that Wick
contending-
owned you?
I'm literally
There's something
contending.
wrong here. Both Wick and
Literally
Andrew.
Hold on, hold
Shut up,
on,
dude.
Both
hold
Wick and Andrew
on.
are
I'm
old.
literally
Hold on,
contending
Nate.
with your
Hold on.
fucking
Wow,
argument.
Andrew got bodied again.
Do you know what?
Andrew's
guys, let's move
wrong.
into the criteria, Wick. What about mental illness rates, Wick?
You haven't even addressed that one. Why should we move on when you haven't addressed that?
Yeah, I don't agree that those are the metrics only for
You're
a
just
healthy
moving the
society,
goalposts.
Wick.
Yeah, you
This is
I
just
don't
moving the
agree
goalposts.
that
fight
those-
on you.
he
You're
said-
like scared to go
when
down.
he
It's
said
Okay.
when he said
completely wrong,
One
right?
at a
performing,
time.
when he said outperforming, he was talking about GDP and money, and we know it. And he could not respond because he knows that China's bodying all of those nations on the
Andrew, would
the
you rather
economic.
live in
Hang on.
China as an
Would
average
you
person
stop
or live in
talking so I
Europe?
can make the argument?
Please.
Well, yeah, but your
So
argument
anyway,
sucks, so
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know why he couldn't contend with it. All he did is say,
I did.
"Well,
I
the
validated it. I
standard,
didn't just
the standard of
consider it. I
living." Hang
did.
on. He wouldn't let me respond though, Wick. Just because you have a slightly higher standard of living, let's say, for the average worker, right? Those same nations that you're talking about, they still have massive abortion rates as well. In those Western nations, they're under replacement rate. Their mental illness levels are way higher, and the general dissatisfaction reported by the populations is generally higher in Western nations than in any.
Usually because they
of
have
the-
better
have
mental
higher
health
in any
standards
of the
than
programs.
Asian
those
Hold
nations.
low-tier
on.
Chinese
I'd like to
standards.
see.
Also,
he's-
China's like 60th on like countries for happiness under like every Western country. So
Yeah,
like,
and
yeah,
China-
it's probably like
You know what
living
the
here
biggest
more.
problem is with the happiness index is you
country-
take countries
China's
with like some of the
fertility
highest suicide
Let's talk
rate and
about
say they're the
birth rate.
happiest.
China's birth rate is not above replacement rate.
It's
China's
not
had
above. No.
huge issues
China's
when it
isn't.
comes
I
to
didn't say it
fertility
was.
rate.
I didn't say it
Fertility.
was.
So Andrew,
I
what's
didn't
your
say
what's your
it
standard
was,
for
Wick.
So Andrew, what's your standard for accepting these metrics? Because you gave a
Yeah,
metric
yeah.
for mental health.
Yeah. So
And-
well, we're going to
and
start.
You
we're gonna
expected them to
I'm
accept
trying to
that,
answer
but
the
then they
question.
gave you a metric for happiness, and you didn't accept that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what makes,
no.
what makes your standard
First
better
of
than
all,
theirs?
First of all, when you're talking about happiness metrics, right? Baked into some of these happiness metrics are bizarre shit like you can have access to healthcare or things like this, which are universalized through the state, right? But it doesn't actually measure this idea itself of happiness. They just bake these things in. Same thing with
Well, I would
You don't
argue
think people
your
with
metric
access
of
to
mental
healthcare
health
are
is
happy, buddy? Like what?
your metric of mental health
Bro,
is the issue of having baked
I'll tell you
in-
what. Am I allowed to
mis-
make an argument or not?
I
Go
thought
for
you were
it.
done. My apologies.
Yeah. How could I be done when I'm in the middle of making the argument?
I don't know how you finish.
Yeah. Well, I usually finish when
Apparently
the
in
argument's
Rachel,
done.
Unfortunately.
So anyway, there's multitudes of metrics for which you can use in a happiness index. The UN tends to bake a bunch in. They just bake a bunch in and grant to themselves that these are metrics for happiness. I don't know why they do this. Maybe there's not another good way to do this, but that's what they do. If you
Well,
look at
that's
the
sort of what
Nordic
you're doing
countries,
with-
if you look
sorry.
at the Nordic countries, for instance, the Nordic countries will often be cited as the happiest nations ever, even though the suicide rate is high, skyrocketing. Only recently started coming down, right? They don't even report that and bake that into their metric, for instance, for happiness. So it's like,
Well, you're
hang on.
baking-
I'm almost done.
I want to
Almost done.
respond, please.
Almost done. Because I only have one other question. So my other question is to Soy Pill. So Soy Pill, you were trying to corner Jake by asking him this question, and the question was just this: Jake, what would you do if none of these things worked? And you were obviously angling that you wanted him to say, well, we would like open up, I don't know, like grape cages for women. That's
not
basically
even. I was actually
trying
to just get him to say the same thing I said. If it's existential, then we should do something like that. And if it's not, then we won't.
Would you do something like that? Would you open up?
If it was existential, I would open the rape cages because otherwise we're all dying. Do it.
Now, Jake,
Soy Pill,
Jake,
why do you
hang on. I'm almost done, man. Now, Jake, would you open the grape cages?
Sorry, no, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
So you'd let everyone die.
It sure sounds. Well, okay. Hey, by that same metric, then, Soy Pill, would you diddle a little boy to save humanity?
If it would save humanity, I'd do it as many times as I had to.
I kind of figured you would, bro.
I disavow the rape cage.
If you want to kill 8 billion people,
have a wonderful evening.
It's just clear that the virtue signaling gets us nowhere, right? Like,
see you later, guys. That's all I need. Thanks for playing.
Andrew, I have an average IQ and have always.
There's no point in caring about something like that if it means we're all gone anyway. So that's really stupid.
Soy Pill to appear on Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator very soon.
You'll be and I'll be a hero for saving.
If I may, just real quick.
All right, I don't want to talk about diddling.
I mean, people want to. People want to shove gender norms down the throats of kids.
I think that, like, can we just acknowledge, at least with the China point, how wrong Andrew Wilson was, like, by every metric.
Wait, shut up. No one cares. Hey, Soy Pill. Soy Pill.
Like, I don't know who you are, localism, right?
You're
I don't
an idiot.
get
Shut
it,
up, dude.
right?
You're
But
clearly
the adults
retarded.
are
We don't
talking,
care about what
the
you're
men are
saying.
talking.
You make no points.
You need to ask your wife's boyfriend.
Hey, I got a real question.
Hold on.
Localism. You're going to let me finish.
Go ahead, Wick.
Yes, you're going to, as I said, you're going to let me finish, right? You're not going to interrupt because that's how this works. You understand that, right? You understand the dynamics at play here. Good. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, right? Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about, right, like this idea. This is a frustrating.
Wait, you wouldn't say none of that to his face.
I can cite facts.
I would say all that
I can
to
cite
his
figures. I can cite all these things that are
nothing.
actual real
you're
things.
Gonna keep
tangible,
hold on.
measurable
I
things.
apologize. I have to. I'm gonna put you backstage. You're gonna go learn some manners because when I asked you to stop, you didn't. I'm gonna bring up Ryan because I know you are
We need to bring in
respectful.
Gail as well. I think Gail's back there.
It's a little rich to complain that you got cut off and then bloviate about how awful the person is instead of getting to your fucking point.
Go ahead, Wick.
Sure. I'll be very brief. The frustrating part of this conversation is I can deal with facts, figures, statistics. We can point to things that are actually happening in the real world, and they don't address it. They don't ever actually contend with these things, and that's just frustrating to me. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Wick.
All right, Sarah, I've got to dip out, but it was nice, absolutely and completely and utterly eviscerating these two nerds for the whole entire night. Cooley, good to see you again. It's been a while. Sarah, it was an absolute pleasure, and you guys have enjoyed. Maybe bring up Gail instead of me, Sarah, because I think he's a good
I
replacement.
see Gail. He's ready.
Yeah.
Hey, Wick, I got a question for you, Wick.
The right wing is not being replaced.
Wick, I got it.
Holy moly, guys. That was pretty funny. What did we think, everybody? What did we think about the debate? Absolutely unbelievable. Can you imagine going onto a debate, going onto a podcast and saying, yeah, you know, I would put my wife right there next to me if there was an intruder in their home. If there was an intruder in my home, I would put my wife next to me. Okay, bro. Okay. Just unbelievable. This is why we have this problem in the West, guys, of reproductive dead ends like that, who will never be able to spread their seed, who have no desire to do it. They're happy to just fester and rot in the absolute filth of the modern feminist viewpoint. And it makes me absolutely sick. It's repulsive. Sitting in their little room, looking like a predator. One of them actually just pretty much admitted that he'd be happy to be a child predator. And the other one looks straight out of a Chris Hansen Greatest Hits episode. Sitting there saying that they have no duties, basically. Contradicting themselves a bunch of times. Absolutely disgraceful. This is the state of men in these circles, unfortunately. And this debate was, if anything, an absolute indictment on the current system and the fact that we need gender roles. We need, you guys ever seen Khabib Nurmagomedov say, the soft boy, take him to Dagestan. Bring him to Dagestan and we make a man. We need to send those nerds to Dagestan and make a man out of them. Should be compulsory. Dagestan or maybe some sort of a gulag or something out there. Anyways, appreciate you guys all being with me today. We have got 11 more super chats until we hit the goal. If we did have a goal, thinking maybe we should try and get there. Maybe if we wanted to stick around. Tomorrow I'm thinking about doing a live stream where we look at Rachel Wilson's recent appearance on whatever, because I saw that she came on and dressed down a woman of a larger persuasion, a larger woman that was on there and that was saying some pretty insulting things to Andrew. So I'm thinking about jumping on, and I haven't watched it yet. I watched the first like 30 seconds and then I thought I have to watch this on stream because it was really funny. He was calling her large Marge, which was making me and Vinny piss ourselves laughing. Large Marge. You love to hear it, to be honest. You absolutely love to hear it. But I think I might jump on tomorrow and do that. But it is currently about to tick over 12 p.m. over here in Bali, and I should probably get to making a video for the day, making my script for the day. I do appreciate all of the support tonight for the stream. I hope you guys did enjoy it. It was good to team up with Cooley. But yeah. Thank you very much for the 5 there. Airborne Animal says, was on Tomato's channel to get her to read him. You did a great job. Congrats on the W. Thank you very much, Airborne Animal. Appreciate that. All right, guys. Until tomorrow, we'll jump back on and we'll review some content and we'll have a very, very good belly laugh about it. So, got a few more super chats. I've got to read the super chats before we finish it off, because we can't leave the super chats hanging, obviously. Lumina says, well done, Jake. I appreciate that very much, Lumina. I appreciate that greatly. Silent came in with the big 100 before as well. Let me see, actually. That's how, oh, what am I doing? I haven't read out super chat questions. Let me just read out all these super chats, guys. And if we want to try and hit the goal, we can. If not, it's been a pleasure hanging with you all. Where were we? I read those ones. Jews in a cart. Amish people are great. The ghost of Pinochet for $10 said, hippity hoppity, women are property. John Donnet said, oh man, Wick sounds like a Reddit incarnate. He is a big Reddit guy. You can really tell. John Donnet for $5 says, Wick is the male embodiment of Kamala Harris. Excuse me, I'm speaking. Absolutely. Crimson King for $5 says, do they not know how to say women, plural? Yes. And I called him out on that. It's women, not woman. These people have fucking TikTok brain. Abby for $50 said, not one step back. Let's go, Jake and Cooley. Yes, not one step back. Thank you, Abby, with the traditional $50. I do prefer it when women send me super chats and are silent and say nothing, but I'll lend Abby an exception. John Diner $5 says, man, Wicket doesn't know anything. Lol, technology doesn't close the physical differences between men and women yet. And we established that. No amount of technology is going to be able to make women better combat fighters. Tiger Eyes for $5 says, we don't have the technology to help women to carry 100-pound backpacks across the desert, though. Yep, exactly. We covered that. They definitely can't do it. Mud for $5 says, some may say glasses make you look nerdy and gee, and I'm here to pay some money to watch Jake slay. An evil known as the feminist way. Okay. That was beautiful. That was beautiful and poetic. John for $2 said, who let the Reddit tart on the panel? Exactly. That's exactly what he was. John says, lol, Chair Force. He's exactly, not Air Force, but Chair Force. That's exactly right. John for $20 said, Wick is making a utilitarian argument. In some cases, women are the best marksmen. Be really funny to pre-sup him with a question of, well, would you agree if slavery benefits society in some cases? Well, they were making the utilitarian argument, and Andrew called him out at the end there by saying, well, you know, if society was going to go extinct, would you deal the kids? And would you put the grape cages for women? And he said yes. So that, my friends, is where the utilitarian argument falls flat on its face. For the Chris Hansen comment, I'm telling you, that's the guy. Seriously, Brad, that was him. Silent sent a huge 100 and just said nothing. Said nothing. What a great man. John for $5 said, we shouldn't have gender roles. Andrew Tate is not a real man. Geez, Wick is appealing to gender roles now. I thought we shouldn't have gender roles. Very good contradiction picked up there. Fifi sent $20 and said nothing. She's a great woman, Fifi. There is beauty in silence. John for $5 says, Wick is giving the Chris Rufo Jr. manager at Panda Express boomer argument. What a joke. Wraith for $10 says, Wick is the dude who got wrecked by Tim Pool on Ukraine for not knowing even one province within Ukraine and being a warmonger. Good to see you, Jake. God bless. I actually did see that. I just put 2 and 2 together now because I did watch that. And I thought that he looked familiar because I'd seen him on Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator, but maybe it was on Tim Pool. Maybe both. John Diner for $5 says, you have to generalize when making moral oughts and policies for societies. You cannot account for every single situation. How do people still not get this? Exactly right. You have to, but they can't contend with the argument. That's the problem, John. I think Gail's over in that debate now. But yes, they know that, but they just have to move to these sort of like monolithic arguments because they can't compete with the generalizations. It just kills their argument. $5 says, of course, Wick. John says, of course, Wick is going to do my GDP argument. Reddit incarnate. Yeah, and that didn't go so well for him. $10 from Timbo himself says, Wick has a limp flag. Yeah, I saw that. It was a bit limp. He's meant to be a patriot. John for $5 says, lol, soy pill mad. They were super mad. Dustin for $2 says, Jake won. Done. Take the W, Jake. Yeah, we took the W in the opening statements, guys. It was all over from the get-go. It was all over Red Rover from the start. Timbo himself for $10 says, Soy has the intellect of a 19-year-old sociology major. I completely agree. PG for $5 says, if the birth rates goes unchanged, the critical tipping point is 2023. Does 8 years not trigger urgency? I mean, that was just a ridiculous argument that they were making. They were saying, oh, well, if the shit hits the fan and the shit's all over the walls, then maybe we'll try and clean the walls. But before then, we can just sort of slowly watch the shit go towards the fan and we just do nothing about it. It's like that scene in Austin Powers where that truck is coming at him really slowly. He doesn't move out of the way. He just goes, no, for a few minutes, but he doesn't move out of the way. That was essentially their argument. Dapper Don for $10 says, what would you think about hypothetical opt-in program for married couples to combine their votes as a stepping stone towards returning the pre-suffrage primacy of nuclear family? Yeah, I'm completely in agreement with that. I don't believe in universal suffrage. I believe that there should be one vote, one family, and the man votes and the woman doesn't vote. Women should in no circumstance vote, I think. It should be the family who gets the vote and people who have skin in the game. The only thing I could think of as a different one is serving your country and having that sort of skin in the game. But yeah. Timbo himself for $20 just gives a salute. Salute you back, sir. Brett Norman for $2 says, Queenslander. I am a Queenslander. Thank you, sir. Tiger Eyes for $5 says, yes, Wick, that lifestyle is okay. Cooley and Jake demonstrated traditional roles are ideal. When you're vague, you're scared. Exactly right. They're vague because they're scared of the arguments. Gail said for $5 that Gail is in. I think he's actually in there right now. Isaac Hayes for $8 says, you are no match for Rachel's intellectual abilities. Soypill, yeah. He was basically just kind of trolling, wasn't it? Trolling is the refuge of an absolute coward, an intellectual coward. Unless it's me doing it to First Amender, then it's funny. But I was still destroying his arguments, though, and trolling. That is what we call verbal ninjutsu, my friends. John got backstaged. Airborne for $5. We already read those ones. Cosmo, Kokomo for $20 says, need to up your shades game. Great to see you cooking. These are my blue light glasses, guys. And these give me an air of intellectual superiority when I wear these, Nothing more intimidating than a man with glasses in a debate. Oh, shit. It's like when someone's in a fight and they start doing karate shit. Shadowboxing before the fight. Oh, shit, this guy's crazy. If you get into the debate and the guy's wearing glasses, you're like, oh, shit. This guy reads. Airborne Animal, the last one that we've got here for now, says, wasn't Soy trying to channel Andrew? It looked like he was to me. Any society that allows for cages doesn't deserve to exist. Completely agree. But that's the thing. Christians would never create those cages because it is not within the ethical purview of Christian ethics to create the grape cages. You know, we can't actually do that. But the utilitarians and the atheists, they don't live by the same moral codes, and that's why they're so debaucherous and so sort of disgusting, the things that happen in those societies. Look at the Soviet Union, look at Mao's China. Anyways, guys, great to be with you all this evening in America time, this morning over in Asia time. I will be back in the morning with another stream. We're going to have a good laugh about Rachel's appearance. I'm really looking forward to watching that. But until then, everybody, stay armed and dangerous. Put your glasses on. Peace.